Welcome to the grim, lawless 23rd century, following the fall of U.S. Gov and mass depopulation of major cities at the hands of the multi-trillionaire de Huberton family. Baptized in radioactive hellfire, a rare mutation makes Turbo a fiercely pumped scrapper, haunted by specters from her past, surviving the post-apocalyptic wasteland one deathmatch pit fight at a time. But when she rescues the stunning trophy girl, the unlikely duo are thrust into a harrowing odyssey, evading marauding berserkers at every turn on their way to the ultimate showdown as they uncover the horrific truth behind the fall of humanity.
Good morning, Jake.
Good morning, Kurt, and hello to everybody out there. Welcome to another edition of Making Turbo Pit Fighter, where we're making a post-apocalyptic sci-fi comic, page by page, little by little, Sunday by Sunday. I noticed you got some copies there. You're still comparing your two printing jobs. You got your print on demand, and those are very different. Yeah, I like the one with a little more room on the trim. Personally,
This is the Lulu one. The decisions have been made. Lulu is going to be for the drop shipping. I have on kurtbrugel.com. I am going to show right now a little teaser for people heading over to. Nope, I'm not. What's going on here? Oh, man. Let me see if I can still grab it. Oh, no, it's still there. All right, technical difficulties.
as usual.
Nope. Yep, here we go. All right, there we are. All right, it'll bounce back. But kurtbrugel.com now officially has copies of Doom Mag's #1, both covers. So my cover and Jake's cover, as well as the Turbo Pit Fighter teaser. So however you like to purchase, support, however it is, collect, you now have that option.
Yeah. So with all the plugs out of the way, we're gonna get back to the.
We got one more. One more. Just wanted to share with everybody. This is our Destinations 2026. I am losing my mind. These days can't get fast enough here. So we got SBX 12th and the 13th. Jake is going to be on the fence until he gets through, getting started on school. But he's got a tag. He's got room in the room. So hoping, Jake, you can make it down there, even for like later Saturday and leave later early Sunday, however you want to do it. But then September 26th, Indie Creator Comic-Con in Providence, Rhode Island. So these are the destinations where you can come and hang out with Jake and I. So, and by the way, that banner I just had printed, 77 inches high. So I wanted to show that off for the Crown Publish. So that will be seen for both SBX, as a locator, if you will, if you're trying to find me. SBX is, if you're going for the first time, it is, even the map is confusing because there's just so many people and it's really, really dense. So I'm hoping my banner will be a nice tangerine beacon. But Jake, before we get real rolling, do what the official cover of Turbo Pit Fighter #1. You did that way back in the day, the early 2000s. How big is that file, and do you think it could manage getting blown up to? I think it's 33 inches wide. Because I would like to get us a Turbo Pit Fighter banner, so that would be something we could kind of work out.
Yeah, I already have it blown up.
You have it as a banner, or you have the file already blown up?
I have it blown up. I used it last time at the IC3. I put it on an easel, and
what did you do? Like an 18 by 24?
Yeah.
Ah, cool. Okay. Okay.
And yeah, it looks really nice. And I also made one of Doom Magazine #1, my cover.
Okay.
And I also made one for Pearl White Malady. They were like $30 at Staples or something like that. But when you get to Staples, they tell you, oh, if you want this while you wait, there's a premium fee, and unless you order it online. So I'm like, huh?
Oh
So
yeah, I remember you telling us.
I'm like, huh? So I take out my phone
And stand there in
and I
front of them.
ordered it online. Yeah, I'm like, why is everything so stupid? And it's like, well, the answer is easy. They want more money, and they can, And I was in Florida. It was a completely empty Staples. There was nobody around for miles, and they had no jobs pending or no nothing. But they're just like, oh, we can't give it to you while you wait. And I'm like, I'm here in your shop. You're dead empty. You're sitting around with your finger up your butt because there's nothing to do. And then, they're like, sorry, man, it's corporate, that's the rules. Anyway, long story short, I got the posters. I got those 3 posters printed at a nice size. And I just bring easels, so just put them on the easel, don't get there. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see a lot of friends at the various cons, and get to hang out at the drink and draw. I was showing this. I never showed you this before. I actually dated it here.
Whoa.
So I can tell
Say
you.
1990. Holy shit.
Yeah, 1990. So this was this was quite a while ago, and these were just like fun comics I was doing at the time. But I did have the name Doom Magazines in mind, and they look like this. Some of this, I had all these different titles, but they look like, I'm just trying to show an example of the insides. Just done with marker and some whiteout, and it was done really fast. And I don't know. I guess
You're gonna collect them. You're gonna collect them and print them and have them for IC3.
not for IC3.
No.
Yeah, but these are like old timey comics that I did. Well, the problem is they just trail off.
Who cares, man? It's ephemera. It's history. They're freaking awesome.
Well, yeah. So I have tons of stuff like this.
Would you have any problem in future Doom mags throwing them in there, throwing one in there or something?
I mean, I saved these all to show them as funny things, for personal history of how I got here. But I don't think they're my greatest, putting my greatest foot forward. They were done a long time
ago. In 1990, that was your greatest foot forward.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't understand. I'm sorry, but I don't understand the judgment of past work being poorer than the work you're doing now, because you can't obviously go back in time. I love the stuff I did when I was 6 years old. I think I was pretty damn good for 6 years old. But now I'm 57 years old. I still think stuff is good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I say good, I mean it in a specifics that it would catch somebody's attention and they'd be like, "Oh shit!" I would tell you right now, guaranteed, if you had copies at IC3 and somebody came by and they were like flipping through it and they were talking to you, and then you were like, "Yeah, I did that when I was in 90." You were like what, 18, 19 years old? No, you'd have been like 20.
Yeah, I was in my 20s.
Early 20s, yeah. And they'd be like, "What? You didn't do these like last week?" Because they look so appropriate for like indie,
Well, they're experimental. So what can you do,
You can print them. Because I want a copy. If you want to scan the files, Jake, I'll put it all together for you. How's that for a deal?
All right. I mean, I'm scanning other stuff right now.
Okay.
I just finished scanning all my concert posters.
Oh,
So
that's right. That's right. You're going to put together a collection of your flyers, your show flyers, right?
yeah, right. And because those are more professionally done or more art,
Yeah.
better quality. And
Full color.
yeah, yeah. Well, some of them are black and white, but
Yeah.
most of them are full color. And you know, the only thing I wonder about, like, does anybody care about this band, the Bangools, that nobody knows about, and then all these things? So, like, I sell posters once in a while, not very often, but maybe if it's in a book, somebody be like, oh, that's cool art, it's a page turner. So we'll see. Um, we'll see. But I just grabbed something to show this morning. Um, So we're working on some interior pages. You were working on that page last week. Um, I'm working on page 27 of Turbo number 2, and folks probably can't see it very well. But I'm going as soon as I'm done with the blue line pencil, I'm going to go over it with the black line pencil, and hopefully finish this page today's episode, because I usually try to finish one page per Sunday, and I only got through about 60% of this last Sunday, so seeing if I could finish it on up. This is going to be So this is where I have to take like some of my own advice, because I always criticize comics that have a lot of standing around and talking, but this is going to be a sequence where the fighting is kind of a lull in the fighting, and I do need to set up all this kind of like character interplay. So here at the top, we're going to show Mrs. Ike. She's at this. She's got this big gun, maybe like even a grenade launcher, and she, was just trying to kill Mr. Ike, her husband. And it says in narrations, they are found the remote kill switch. She can't fire no more. Phew. And then she says, "Fuck all! If I see that little rat again." And then here in dialogue balloon, it says, "What happened with you two?" And then it says, "She cheated on me with one of my bots." And then here we see in the panel, it's Turbo talking to Mr. Ike in the van. And she says, "So what? You cheated on her for 20 years, slept with her sisters, her mother, Ike." And then he says, "Yeah, but it's different when it happens to me. I'm sensitive about that stuff. Why are you showing up in this shithole?" And she says, "Repairs, the van, and Gopher." And he says, "That's going to cost." And then she says, "How about I just saved your life?" And he says, "My life is not worth what you think. Anyway, it's the parts, not the labor." And then this is the panel I'm drawing now. What is this place? It looks like a junkyard. And it says, it's an outpost for mech tech. They can patch up the truck. And I'm going to be drawing this entrance of this underground repair facility. And then there's going to be this other word balloon here. There's Philo. He's a robot guy. I don't know if does that make sense? Robot guy, or should I say a robot expert?
I don't know. I like Robot Guy.
Okay. Yeah, that's how people would talk.
Yeah.
In those days. So, and then the last panel, it's going to say, "Let me do the talking. I'll get the inside mech tech deal." And Trophy Girl is going to say, "Where's the washroom? I'm filthy." And some random mechanic guy is going to say, "You look okay to me, sugar." And yeah, all this narration, all this dialogue is tentative. Sometimes as we're doing it, we change our mind, and I run it by Kurt. how does it sound? And sometimes there are last minute changes, but we're doing a better job of allowing space for the dialogue so that we don't run into problems later. And we're doing the art around the dialogue rather than the dialogue around the art. So I'm just going to be doing blue line pencils here as we're chit-chatting about the day's events. And Kurt is, you're doing like your 80% inks, right?
The skeletal ink lines. I just realized I had printed page 8 twice, so I'm going to work on page 7 because I've gotten pages 1 through 6 80% of the way along, and then so I got to get page 7 if I have a connection. I still have a connection. Running all this equipment, but where are we? We're coming on the end of August. I'll definitely be doing my tones and texture in September, so I'm looking forward to that.
And I'm looking forward to finishing Turbo number 1. Man, that's gonna be so good. That's gonna be so cool. Last night I went live and I was doing some inking on my own, and I want to show people like what it looks like as soon as I'm done with a Substack live. It gives you these little AI generated. I'm trying to get the
shorts.
Yeah, and like this one's only 12 seconds. This one's 23 seconds. This is a great feature. I mean, this is like the kind of stuff that AI could be useful for. It's like you do this live. I don't know. I was on there for like maybe an hour and a half, just drawing. I was just going through like page after page, just drawing and inking. I was doing this pin of Hawkwind, and then just talking to the camera. So they give you all of these little interstitials or little mini clips, and the dialogue appears right on the screen automatically with a title above that kind of summarizes what you're talking about, at least as far as the AI interprets it. Like sometimes they get it a little wrong, but here let's show some examples.
Just a robot, but she's not just like a robot that got built to somebody. She's a robot that built herself, and that left everybody guessing. And even Esoterra doesn't know who built her, and she was a gift to Esoterra from the person that programmed her.
So that one I probably wouldn't use.
It's called the end of the world timeline, but it's not really post-apocalyptic yet. It's just dystopian. It's like superheroes. It's like, they look like superheroes, but they're really like just human anomalies. And there's a lot of people taking enhancements and supplements to get really like steroided up and muscly. I call it the end of the world time.
So that one, so if I like it, I can hit download clip. You just click this and then it downloads to your phone, and then you could post it on, Instagram or Twitter or Substack or whatever. But it just gives you these little things. So that's I'm not going to go through all these, but that's kind of how it uses it. And I gotta say, these are really good tools. The Substack has really good tools for live streaming, and and that kind of automated thing. As much as we say we hate AI here, it's really the generative AI. That is a great example of how AI should be used, because it just takes the content that the human did and just organizes it in lots of time-saving ways.
One of the things I'm hoping, this is my wish list for podcasting and recording them, is we could do it right now, but it would be on the autoplay, like the replay, and I would have to edit. But what my dream is that there would be a piece of software where you could be streaming, and then what happens is that you could say, okay, this segment's over, and then hit a button, and what it would do, it would kind of like render that section of the podcast as its own section on YouTube. But you would have the option when you got to see our 3-hour, the 3-hour episode, it would give you the option that you could either watch the entire 3 hours or you could watch specific sections, but it would all still be in the same sector, file, in a sense. It just wouldn't be things being broken out. And that's the thing that kind of has gotten me very frustrated with making content that's shorter from the larger, in order to get people to watch the larger. But then it gets this feeling like, well, nobody's going to fucking watch the larger. They're just stuck on the doom scrolling. Like it happened to me last night. I am not like judging on any other human other than myself. It was 8 o'clock and I was like, you know what? No, it wasn't. It was 7:58. And I like going to bed no
That's
earlier.
really
than
specific.
No. I did.
For our viewers at home, you can rest assured it wasn't quite 8 yet.
No, but here's the reason. The reason is because I don't like going to bed I don't like going to bed earlier than 8 because I get up way too early. So, but I wanted to go to bed like 8:30 or something because I really had a lot of things to do this morning. So I was like, all right, well, I just got to kill a couple minutes. An hour and 45 minutes later, having gone through the YouTube shorts or reels, I don't know what the fuck they call them, I had no idea. I was just literally like, oh yeah, another minute. I'll just watch a couple more, and it'll probably be like 8:35 or something. Literally,
watching shorts from
just on Roku.
People?
It was just the feed. It just was everything from cats to cop body cams to just like
doom scrolling. Yeah.
Oh, I got totally into doom scrolling, but the whole thing was it went from 7:58 to 9:48, and I completely thought it was only like at tops like 35 minutes of my time.
Yeah, you fell into a bad wormhole.
Now, with that being said,
what you're talking about is happening to everybody. Time is elastic because these things are so attention grabbing from one to the next and to the next, and they're actually tracking like how much time did you spend on this before you flip to another one. Okay, now that tells us that we're going to give you this video instead of that video, and that's why you get deeper and deeper as it goes. And they're being sued right now. And actually, the lawsuits are over. They were found guilty. Facebook was
Meta. You're talking about Meta.
Of targeting young people with addictive videos and putting in writing, in emails and corporate, communication that, we need to really ramp up with 13 to 15-year-olds, and we can do it if we give more fashion stuff and less, political, like whatever they were saying. And now they're having to pay class action lawsuit settlements. I don't know how much each person gets, but the plaintiffs were like 80,000 people signed up to be part of the class action. And I think this is just California. So, I mean, people should realize they can, like, there's only certain biometric data that they can collect, right? They know what buttons you click on, obviously, and they know how long you watch something. They know, obviously, if you like something. They know, obviously, if you comment on something. So those are like 4 like things already that they have to build a profile on you to get you zeroed in more and more, with addictive content that's going to keep you up from 8 o'clock till 9:30 every night when you're trying to go to sleep. And it's insidious. And I fall for it too, all the time. I look up at the clock and you just can't believe, your eyes are glazed over and your hand is numb from holding the phone, and you just cannot believe that you just wasted all that time looking at, bums fighting on the street or looking at, people resisting,
So I have had this thought for a long time, especially when social media really started escalating. I guess it was like around 2009-ish. And I wasn't fully committed to coming back to the arts. But as time went on, I started realizing like the whole making content game is exactly for the platform. Like you're not fooling anybody. You know what I mean? Like if you put those clips up, which I think you should, from your Substack, they'll get suppressed. First off, because they'll be read as Substack content and it's on Instagram, and Meta will just be like, no, fuck you, we'll suppress it. We'll give you a little bit. We'll let your friends check them out. But the thing is that your friends, me, when I see it, right, I'm like, oh shit, that's right. Jake's working on the blah, 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 blah. Look at him drawing on that, blah, blah, blah. There is no way for me to immediately click something on the screen to take me to the whole enchilada, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the feelings I'd started having, and it's growing and growing all the way up to like now, to the point where I'm going to strongly consider suppressing my social media intake, if you will, to the point where if you're going to want to find me, there's only going to be 2 ways to find me. And that's going to be either through my, long form content, like, Crom update blog, through cromthebarbarian.com, or shows. Like, I think it's in collaboration with, I cannot really express how excited I am as destinations for SPX and IC3 next month, for the whole thing. Like, selling comics is like number 3 on my list. Number 1 is being able to see everybody. Like Rick Lopez just found out that I'm going to be at SPX and he's going to be there. And we were like, yo, yeah, I can't wait to catch up with you. Can't wait, And then I had to basically pull back because I had 5 or 6 questions for him. I was like, oh, I'll just wait till I see Rick at SPX. The second thing is I just really want to see what's being made out there. That's the thing I feel most disgusted with myself and the system of social media is I've got to weed through 95 pieces of not crap. It's just not interesting to me to be Rick's just finishing up his new book, or Ro Higashi, is blah 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 blah, or Noah's going to be a bootmate. He's going to be our neighbor at SPX, and man, he's got some stuff. But I literally see Noah once a week. He might only be posting once a week, but I would rather see more Noah's stuff than all this other slop and not uninteresting. I don't want to judge things. I don't want to judge things as they're crap, because it's not everything up there is crap. The problem is it's consuming too much of my time and my energy, and then on top of it, it's making me question my own ability to make what I want to make and not feel nobody's going to want to buy it.
Yeah, the minutes are incalculable that have been wasted. when you pick up your phone, like this happens to me all the time. When I pick up my phone, I pick it up for a reason, right? I'm like, oh, I got to respond to that email,
Yeah.
right? And then as soon as you pick up your phone, you look at the lock screen. It's like, oh, I have a notification from
Yeah.
this app. And next thing you know, you're off and running on some other thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that's just picking up your phone. That's hardware, right? And then now we can talk about the software, right? So now I say, all right, I got distracted. I wasted 45 minutes on this other stuff, but now I'm going to get to reply to that message. So now you go to the messaging app, right? It could be your texting thing, and they
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I have a message from Charlie." Now you're 15 minutes responding to that. Now, then you say, "Well, I need to see if somebody got back to me on Instagram." All right, you go to Instagram. What's the first thing you see? The first thing you see is something that is biometrically designed for you to take your attention away from whatever it is that you are planning to do, so that you completely get lost and watch their content, so that you click things and like things and comment things, so that they can get revenue. And the amount of time that was wasted, like, I used to have a boss, and he was like he was like a busy guy. Like, if you need to like FaceTime with him, it was like, okay, what, sit down, talk, and he told me one time when we were hanging out, we were going to like a convention for like printing, like printing presses and equipment. And he was like, yeah, most people, they waste so much time. He says, if I get a magazine, he goes, don't look through the magazine. Look at the table of contents, and then circle the things that you're going to that you're interested in, and then realize that if you just start thumbing through the other pages, you're wasting valuable time, right? Just get the stuff that's interesting to you. You're not there to, sample everything in the magazine, and the magazine would love if you did that. Like, spend some time, leafing through this magazine. But he's like, no, I'm only interested in this article, this article, this article, and then that's it. You just toss the thing. So that could be applied today to social media. It's like, really try to stay focused on what you picked up the phone for, because if you're working on a project and you only have Sunday to do it, you're going to waste away your Sunday. And I'm sure everybody can relate to this, because we've all been inundated for about, yeah, you said like 2008. Yeah, because like, in education, that's when they're noticing, that the literacy of our school children started dropping way down. It just completely coincides with smartphones. um, it doesn't mean that your kids are getting stupid. It just means that they're not using the Queen's English, the King's English, whatever they call it, in as formally, and reading comprehension, like their ability to write coherently, read coherently, deductive reasoning, like, it's it's creating a society. I was going to say an army. It's creating a society of passive observers. And I always tell my students, like, you should be the one making the content, not consuming the content. I was like, do you like movies? I'm like, well, you ever thought about making a movie on your phone with some friends, and you can download an app to do editing and overlays and dubs and everything? No, they have no concept of it. I'm like, well, all those movies that you're watching, somebody made, and you could make a living making a movie. And that's one of the most lucrative things you can be doing nowadays, is making a hit movie. um and same thing goes for, like, the like one good thing is like the TikTok dances, right? They show these influencers doing these TikTok dances, and then that gets little girls and in moving, right? They're doing the TikTok dance, and then next thing you know, they're filming themselves doing a TikTok dance. I actually love that. I think that's really good. We need more of that. And I let kids rehearse. The kids can't have their phones in school anymore, but I let kids rehearse their TikTok dances in my room at lunchtime. Like you can't get in trouble for that, for doing that. And like most kids get in trouble for doing that. Like in other settings. Like if you're doing that in gym, I don't know if they allow that. But they should. Um, so
My whole thing is this: productivity. That's my. I love working. I love making things. I love creating things. I love taking an idea and formula. One of the reasons I wanted to get up this morning is I had a lot of stuff getting prepared for today's episode, which this morning was probably the first time in a long time that I was like 10 minutes good. Like I had 10 minutes till 10 o'clock. So that was good. But I got up at like 5:10 or something. And I have these ideas that kind of like circle in and out. Like they come to me, I work on them for a day or two, and then I let them go. And like months go by, and then they come back. And then like like literally like about the last 10 minutes, I was looking at what I had done in between doing all this other stuff. And I was like, oh shit, I could combine this with this other project that was working. Oh my God. I was like, holy shit. So I got like 5 notes just staring at me on my desk right now. As soon as we get off here, that I'll be going directly in to a place of joy, being productive. I'm like that. I think the thing is, and it's also too why, once again, I love, in the anticipation of getting to SPX and IC3, is I know everybody there is equally the same type of person. That, I mean, I am saying that emphatically, that they like producing, they like making things, they like sharing things. It's exactly like you and I. So there's no hierarchy, if you will, of even like good or bad. Like I said, that's number 2 on my list, is just to see what people are making. But I find it to be so bizarre that the corporate system, the industrialized machine, especially in our country, is moving so fast away from send and using all these signals to say, don't worry about it. You don't have to be on time to work. You can't, you want to go home with a bellyache. You know what I mean? It's why I had to leave work. I'm not going to take people through this thing. I work as a assistant manager for Trader Joe's, and loved working for them until I was being questioned on how I was interacting with the crew in their productivity. And my last meeting with anybody of any standing, the answer to the question this superior asked me was, they're not being productive. And I'm not even saying being productive enough. Now, I'm not saying this is like, as like a corporate person, I was a part of the hiring and firing system. And the whole idea was in finding people who really, and we did have people who really wanted to be there and work. But then, and this was one of the things that actually made me, 2 people quit. And, they had, I'm going to be going to do something else. And I was like, oh man, good luck. I ended up running into them a couple weeks later, and just catching up and everything. And I said, what's going on? Like why, was there anything like I couldn't do? Or, I was just trying to like make sure like that. And they both point blank said, you have more people there that stand around with their thumbs up their asses that are making $5 to $6 more than me an hour. And then you come down on me when I was not being productive enough. And I was like, oh shit. And so my point is that there is so much endorsement in our society and for career pathing that is literally saying you don't need to be that productive. And I think it's also why AI sort of still like undulates through our psyche as like this gross thing, because the signal is really coming along in a way where it's like, Jake, you don't have to. Why are you fucking scribbling with the blue pencil? Jesus Christ, what a waste of time. You could just prompt that shit through. Like, you could make that comment. You know, this is what would go on inside our heads, right? Like, well, maybe there is some buttons I could write some code that could do some prompting that could, and it would just make the comic book. Problem is, you would spend zero amount of time making. You wouldn't be making anything. You would be producing something. And it would then only be able to live on these platforms. So it's this real, I'm completely baffled. I can't get it. I'm a smart guy, but I don't get where society's going in the sense of like, oh, you like working? Oh, you like being productive? Oh, you want to grow? You want to think, hey, come on over here. Where is that place? It all seems predatory. Go ahead.
That reminds me of The Office. Like, my older daughter is really a huge fan of The Office. She's watched every episode like 5 times, and I used to sit down and watch it with her. It's a hysterical show. It really is. But one of the takeaways I think from The Office is like how much stuff happens at these offices that is not work at all. It's just shenanigans.
Yeah.
And how much possibly time can people spend on this before the company goes out of business or something. And there's, really a lot of sitcoms, like any job-based, work-based sitcom, was like that. Like I remember Barney Miller, right? It was like all these conversations. It's supposed to be like a police station, but all these like conversations are happening, or and it's just like nobody's doing. They're all personal stuff and whatever else is happening. And it's all it's all comedy. It's all funny stuff, but. When I watch The Office, I would get this anxiety as this, just as a former worker at so many different work, environments. Like, how can they be standing around on company time? Yeah. And then like the word, even worse, that would, because I would, I'm the kind of person when I'm watching a TV show or a movie, and like somebody has the refrigerator door open, and they're talking and they're making a point and they're talking to the other guy, and I'm like,
close the refrigerator door, please.
Close the fridge.
My wife is that.
Like, I can't concentrate on what the person is saying. I'm like pointing at it, and I'm tapping on my friend. They got to close the fridge, So it's like that feeling when I'm watching The Office, and then you get to these, and they do that on purpose. I mean, like that's the whole premise of the show. Is like how useless so much of this corporate stuff is going on, and then like it's not just like goofing off. It's not just like two workers goofing off, like talking at the water cooler. It's like the freaking the meetings that they call, and they say, okay, we're going to be doing some team-based professional development now, and that we brought in this specialist, and it's that kind of stuff, like where it literally comes from the bosses and the owners, to they think they're going to like inculcate the workers with some pearls of wisdom that is going to get like but it's just all these stupid things like like water balloon toss, or it's like such meaningless stuff. So I hear you about workplaces where it seems very, very arbitrary. Like one, you were saying your former coworker was saying, why are they giving me a hard time when Charlie over there is like sitting on his thumbs all day. And I would just tell that person, oh, don't worry. By the time AI is incorporated with cameras and monitoring, they're going to get everybody. It's not,
Well,
the reason they picked on you is because, the assistant manager had to do 3 guys in one day, to pick on. And that was their quota, but they would have done like 8 guys if they would have had the time. Like, that's basically, how that happens. And you were just in the line of fire, before they get around to everybody else.
yeah, just to put a footnote here, and good morning, Charlie. We did see you pop in there. Thanks for stopping by. This is old man problems. That's what they call it, like doomer boomer problems. And I get it. As I get older, I get slower. We all do, right? And this shit's the curve of the acceleration point right now is just a steep, straight incline, ascension. It's an ascending. It's not going in an incline. It's just ascending straight up. And I don't want to feel like I'm missing out on anything like anybody else. But at the same time, how much of my time that could be in the world of production be, like just wasted? Like how much of it is just like really, really being wasted? But even more on top of that, I think the inescapable feeling that especially a true creative person, a person that's devoted to making, like, the great people that will be attending, comic shows like SPX and IC3, but that the doubt monster, the monster that just, comes in, at some portion of time where you're making and says, really, you're going to waste your time on that? Like, really? Like, who the fuck's going to buy that? Like, why would somebody buy that? Isn't that kind of like embarrassing? You know what I mean? Like what, I don't get it. You know what I mean? And then you're like, oh, and then you're trying to talk to yourself. Like you and you are you and the internet, like the world. And then you're trying to like convince, no, I really want to do it. So like right now, just for like a quick Crom update that is completely in line with, what's being talked about. I have literally just gone dark. Like I am not posting anything. I'm working on a ton of stuff, trust me, but I don't feel I have relinquished myself the feeling of feeling bad about not posting something. That was the first and only thing that I wanted to do. And I'm like right now making a bunch of promotional material that will run for about a week, which will be that week where I do my classic can Crom sell 100 copies without Kickstarter. And that'll be the week leading up to me going to SPX. And then I'll have 2 weeks to basically recoup and recalibrate and then get to IC3. And then I'll have a week off, And when I say a week off, like, just to give myself some downtime, but also digestion time, like what happened there? Because I do have questions. Like I have questions about, just how people are really responding to me, at a show. Because not only am I selling Crom books and Turbo Pit Fighter, but I'm also bringing a couple of people with me that, I have a very good rapport with. And I'll be sharing more about them. And, I just want to see when I have my bookshelf up there, is it the pricing? Is it really the pricing? Is it the size? Is it the cost? You know what I mean? Like, is it the color? Is it the black and white? You know what I mean? I'm really looking at my sales as like, like just kind of like watching people interact with what I have for sale. I have originals I'm going to be having at both shows. So I'm putting together those portfolios. So and then I'll have an ability to be able to sit there and go through my originals and see what comes about there. But I think moving forward, 2027, I'm not going to be around other than on Sundays with you. Maybe some updates on Crom where I would bring a second person on. I think that's going to be part of it. But for the most part, I'm just going to work. I'll be communicating with people through the newsletter and one-on-one with emails who reached out, so on and so forth. And then when it comes time, it'll all be done and ready. And then the world will get exposed to it for about a week. And then that'll be it. And then I'll go right back. So, because this is my biggest thing, Jake.
Yeah.
This is my biggest thing. My core frustration right now. I did not understand why I couldn't get 2 Crom anthologies to get done, in a year. Like, that's my goal. Now, the reason they're not getting done has nothing to do with anybody other than me. I want work in there that I've made.
Yeah.
But I have to sit down and fucking make it. I'm not as much a full-time artist as people might want to think and hope and expect. But, I give myself a good 3 days a week, 6 to 8 hours on those days to make work. But I look back now on this year and I realize that 6 hours is really 3, because the other 3, I'm like, oh, let me go check that on the internet. Oh, let me go check. Oh. And then the next thing you know it, you're like, oh, check that out. Oh, check that.
Yeah. I mean, there's, when you're doing creative work, there is a law of diminishing returns, because, you could go through some really dry periods, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. Whether you're a writers are like some of the most tortured people, and they turn to alcohol and drugs and stuff.
Adderall.
Well, yeah, whatever. Crutches, like, it could be food, it could be, whatever. There is, if you have like, oh, here's 6 hours and I'm going to sit down with a blank piece of paper and a pencil. No, it doesn't work like that. Like, you might get like 1 or 2 good hours of creative production. Otherwise, you're just you're waiting for a spark. You're looking for inspiration. You go leafing through comics and seeing some ideas. I mean, that's why I love doing all this, because once the blue line pencil's done, all I got to do is the black line pencil, and then there's no thinking involved, right? You don't need that creative inspirational spark. At that point, you're just doing the technical execution of the lines that were already all laid out and stuff. So you have to think about that, and the same thing goes with education, because in other countries that are more successful at education than the United States, you find that they have shorter hours, not longer hours. And you also find that they start kids in like academics at age 7, and here in the US we keep saying, we start them at age 5. That's when kindergarten starts, and you're doing numbers and letters and writing and all that. And they have found, through research, evidence, trial and error, many decades, that it doesn't really make sense to start them. Best thing to do is like encourage play and social skills and empathy with others and stuff like that, because by the time they're 7, they're really ready for it, and they get absorb it a lot better. So you have all these different schools of thought, and in America we just keep we have this like rat race grindstone mentality where it's got to be more hours, and it's got to be longer hours, and it's start earlier and later, pushing from above, and it's a mistake. It's a real mistake. And you might have that in the comic industry too, like from editors who are dealing with artists, right? You're dealing with creatives. So all right, sometimes you have a diva like imagine working with like Frank Miller. The guy's got so many hits on his hands. He doesn't want somebody else telling him what to do, right? And you might have this, you might have problems with attitude. You might have problems with, I don't feel like doing it now. You might have all this stuff. And the question is, how do you get the best out of your creative team? It might not be cracking the whip, and it might not be insisting like I need something by tomorrow. It like I just saw this movie. I told you I saw that Bruce Springsteen movie. It was like it's called Deliver Me from Nowhere, and it focuses on this like period where Springsteen is having all these creative impulses, but they're very dark, and it ends up being like a folk album. His dark kind of like folksy album called Nebraska, and they showed you his agent slash manager guy, and they show you, that's one of the better things about this movie is that they really show you that he really treaded lightly with Springsteen. Like like basically anything he said, that's the way it's got to be. Like it wasn't like hey man, I got the label down my neck, and we're thinking about touring and all. It was none of that. It was all like like yes, Bruce, whatever you say, Bruce. Like and that was one of the highlights of the film, actually, because in real life, I guess he had some very, very, very like dialed in manager who did want, the best for, Springsteen, creatively, but it came at the expense sometimes of the album and the label and, the missed opportunity to capitalize, after his big album and tour that had a lot of radio hits, to not follow that right back up, 6 months later was like a huge missed opportunity, they were saying, and that was the tension in the movie. But it just goes to show, like, he had to go through that dark period and come out the other side. So when it comes to comics, there's a lot of that too. There's a lot of people like that, just like, oh, why isn't this guy doing comics like he used to? Like, well, he's going through a creative change, and he's got this different avenue that they're going down. And sometimes it's good commercially, sometimes it's not. But the artist has to, get it out of their system, and and sometimes we can't help it, where we get inspiration from and what we're focused on. And they're not all going to be the best commercial hits, and a lot of times when a musician or an artist is doing work like that, it takes a long time. It's like not till much, much later that it's recognized critically, as something, because everybody just had like this.
Well, it's like their periods, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you have a long enough career, some people can look back and be like, "Oh, Picasso's greatest period was his blue period,"
Right.
when his buddy shot himself in the head because Pablo stole his girlfriend. You know what I mean? Like, because that type of like looking back. But like I said this before, it is the God's honest truth. I was happiest as an illustrator when I had anonymity. In other words, there was no reason for whoever was paying me to make what I was making because they wanted my name. And that is the severe wide cavern between the past of what we were dealing with in being creative and making comic books or illustrations and the such, to now. Bruce Springsteen, by his agent and the record label at this time that you're talking about, they knew nothing but greatness was going to come out of him. He was like, I know this is going to sound hyperbolic, but it's the only person I could think of right now which I don't want to go back to, but anyways, he was like a Michael Jackson, like he could make songs so heavy in your heart, in your head, and they were pop music on the radio to make everybody money, So Golden Goose laying eggs, let them do what they're going to do. That does not exist nowadays. There is no way. There's no way anybody around anybody who's not an artist that is there to support and undulate an artist is only speaking from algorithm trends. That's it. Maybe partial technology, like, hey, we should probably hook up with somebody who's making AI generated music because X, Y, and Z and stuff. It was like, I remember how shocked I was. I don't know if you remember this, but when Madonna did her Radiant Light album, and it was with William Orbit, and it was like, what? Because at the time, William Orbit was like, I don't know who DJ wise, producer music, like in my world, dance club and all that rave scene stuff, like, yeah. But that was like the secret squirrel. Like he was like a secret squirrel. But here, Madonna's like, yeah, get William Orbit. I want him to help write and produce, sing. And there is some great interviews with William Orbit on what it's like to work with Madonna in making music. But once again, that is all before we have this godlike social media system that I just don't have any belief in, that people are not only seeing my work, that they're engaging in it at an equality of level. I just don't think people can. Like, it's not an ineptness of like lack of intelligence or anything. It has nothing to do with their like biological, emotional design. It's just the evolutionary ape in us is always like, oh, look, a squirrel. Oh, look, another squirrel. Oh, what's that squirrel eating? Well, why?
Yeah,
Does that squirrel have a shorter tip? That's all doom scrolling is. It's going into the impulsiveness of like, well, what is that? What is that?
But it's also changing us, especially generation to generation. Because the kids that are coming up with it, well, they're very, very concerned right now about how their brains are going to be wired, and this goes for the previous generation too. Like, in school, everyone's like, oh, we can't have AI in school. It's going to take over the kids' brains, and they're not going to be able to think for themselves. And it was like, well, we kind of had already this huge dependency on Google. And Google search and Google apps and Google Docs and Google this, and like, who is the authority on anything nowadays? Like, it's not like people are going to libraries. It's not like people are going to look at transcripts, or it's just plug it into Google. And reporters now, they plug it into Google, and you're just hoping that you get a decent source that you can rely on. But it's just, so we're already on like 2 or 3 generations of that, and now to that we're adding Gemini, which is going to be like, like, that's going to be the first thing I'm going to tell my students when we get back to school. It's like, all right, kids, when we left in June, you were just starting to see this thing now where you put something in Google and you get the AI at the top, and you have to scroll down, to get the traditional search results. I'm just going to tell them, scroll down. Like,
the difference.
AI at the top, it might be really convenient. Because they're telling you all your answers, and they're also giving you things. Oh, I might not have even thought of that, right? But they're doing the thinking for you there, and they're also jumping to conclusions for you, and they're also downplaying what the source is, and the source is everything. You got to click on that little link, and you got to double check, because a lot of of the AI Gemini results you get, you click the little link and it's the exact opposite of what the AI is telling you.
Yeah.
You know?
I think what's going to be really, really interesting, and you know what, just I think once again to blame my age, because I'm sure somebody's going to come in and either make a comment in the chat while we're live or come through later and actually say this, but the creative spirit is always going to be there, and I know when I once again go back to my early teens especially, and my developing up and into the like 18, 19-year-old, there was a lot of fascination, you know what I mean, like I was with my buddy Matt Stawicki this past Tuesday for lunch and catching up, and I brought the World Anthology #2 cover, the original art down there, and because half the time we're just talking about Frazetta and Boris and Donato Giancola and so on and so on and so forth, about artists and what's going on and technology and everything. It's very kind of similar way that you and I interact. But it was really cool because the success for that painting for me is literally allowing myself to go back to about 15 years old and make that painting. In other words, when I was so stumped by Frazetta, and as a matter of fact, I think it's really right here. The book is still here. It is good. This book had me so perplexed on how somebody could make this image. The image is just still,
I'll be right back.
It's like 3,500 word essay or prose, but just with a bunch of like paint on a board. And I wanted to do this. I wanted to do exactly the same thing, but I had none of these skills, zero, other than, which is what I would do, is I would just start penciling things out, right? And erase and pencil. Okay, that's good enough. And then I'd start putting some color down. And then I'd start making things darker. And then I'd change to like color pencils. And then I'd start outlining stuff with black pens, and I would just kind of keep this layering thing going. And ultimately, it would look like a 15-year-old did it. But now I feel like that cover that's going to be coming out for World Anthology #2 is literally my own sense of accomplishment of being allowed to interface with that creativity that was initially sparking me at 14, 15 years old. And also just going back to that time that I was frustrated, saying to that person, like, hey, no, it's okay. You can still pencil. You can still throw colors down. But why not do it this way? It'll be better organized. Oh, shit. Okay. And voila. You still there, Jake? You might be sneezing or going off to the bathroom. But, yeah, I guys, it's such an amazing time right now. In the way of not only wanting to be creative, but wanting to, the definition of art is somebody makes it and then somebody views it. That's art. Like, art's not this. Like, this is just drawing. This is just thoughts on paper, whether it's linear in words or lines in pictures. That's all that is. And it could be just a one-on-one communication. Like, Jake and I could just basically be doing this podcast, and for probably about 2.5 years, that's all it was just to be communicating with each other by what he was penciling and writing on one side and what I was penciling, and it would accumulate to being a comic book. But, the having somebody, see your work is, I think, a really, and especially when it's like right there with you. And I think that's, with the creative spirit never dying. And I think it's just going to get just as much excitable from generation to generation. I do think the thing we're going to constantly return to is the shows, being somewhere where a bunch of people are gravitated to that destination that want to interact with stuff. Um, uh, I want to do this as quick as possible, but one of the other things that I am very connected to is vintage paperbacks and pulps. And there's a show in Pittsburgh that was just a couple weekends ago called Pulp Fest.
Yeah.
And I've been watching, it's about a dozen guys and a gal. They're YouTube, they're called booktubers. I don't know if anybody knows that terminology, but they're the sci-fi fantasy booktubers. And they get on each other's channels and they, they're just one, I envy these guys and gal to no end because they spent an entire year building and making a friendship and expanding their consciousness and the things that they enjoy reading, and people are sharing, Chris would like this, Jake would like this, and sending each other like bundles of books in the camaraderie of that. And then the fact that they were able to spend an entire weekend together in one little convention center hall, and the videos that came out of that, and then now the aftermath video, it is so like heartfelt, and it is something I'm going to want to see more of in the indie comic scene, and especially from our channel, which I've mentioned some people, two individuals I'm not going to name because I haven't emailed them yet, so I can't verify whether they're going to be our first two indie creator exchange guests. But Jake met two incredibly talented people, and they have filled out the form, and now I have a Doom magazine that I can send in exchange down, and then get them to hopefully agree to come on. It is what the form is, and when you go to kurtbruegel.com, it's there. It's the Indie Exchange form that you can fill out. But, Jake, I just want you to know that we're going to get that going in September, as we have been talking about. But we're going to do 2 a month. We're just going to keep ourselves 2 a month, so we have like an on and off. If that's the way it works, we might do 2 back to back. It's always based on scheduling and stuff. But I have to say, I am really, really excited to just get that part going again, and having that third person. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun and great.
Yeah, I mean, it usually follows after we do a con because we meet all these great people.
Yeah, these are both, you met both of them in Jacksonville, right?
Yeah, but there's been a lot of people that I meet when I just attend a con,
right?
And just get their card and then just follow up later. So there's that too. And if anybody's listening, if you haven't done our show as a guest, the Indie Creator Exchange, then feel free to reach out, but also recommend somebody that we should be having on, and promote their stuff, and then we send them a copy of our comic so that they can comment on it. We love that. But there's this guy, and then I have this whole like packet of this is Dave who reached out finally. We got in touch. Then I have this whole packet of people that that have been holding on to their cards. All these little notes. Get on, like this says "Get on Pod." Jimmy Lee. I don't want to give out people's phone numbers. So Desert Island Comics, Williamsburg. This is a store. This is a retailer. Scott Rule is an adult. He's a original art collector. Here's Rand from the Kirby Museum. Oh man, what a great interview that would be. This is Aaliyah Willis. This was from the IC3. And then this says M. Sardo. I think we know who that is. This is John Knopfsinger from Starry Bandit Comics, buying, collecting, and selling. I think this is like a dealer. And we gotta really get better with all understanding all the different possibilities for distribution, because we love the power pulp guys. There might be lots of other people like that, that are regional, or maybe they're overseas. There's a lot of different things that we still have to research. Um, the art students so a lot of the stuff I got, these are like convention stuff that I just need to follow up on. And
But remember, from here on out, when you're at shows, and this is something I've been saying and I want to say more and more, is the exchange. That's when you're there, we can make the exchange. I'll probably, when I've done this in the past, definitely from the follow up from IC3 last year, I emailed like a dozen people and had them still fill out the form. I need the form. If I don't have the form, I'm just pissing in the wind and trying to make this thing happen, and trying to remember is basically the biggest thing. I keep your form in my email box, unread mode, until you have been on the show. And I also want to add to what I'm looking forward to, people we've had in the past. Pat O'Malley. Remember Pat? He did the, damn it, was the pink book. By Hollywood.
Yeah, right, with the helmet and the club and everything.
Yeah, and the father was the producer.
The baklava. What do you call it? Baklava?
Yeah, it was Power Punch, Pulp Punch. Sorry, Pat. But he just reached out recently asking what was going on over here because he's overseas right now and stuff. But I, like, one of the last, replying messages I said is like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to try to sync with you on where you're at and where Jake and I are on Sunday, and get caught up and everything. So, Jake and I have got to get our work done. I just want that. That's number one. I'm the watchdog here for the most part. So, like I said, twice a month is the slots that we would open up that, Jake and I would work for an hour and a half. And then 11:30, we would bring a guest in on the Indie Exchange. And the three of us would then have an episode where we're sharing, what's going on with our work and the world and, the complaining, if not the cheering. So, and the crying, if not the laughing.
And what's going on with they are doing creator profiles or spotlights or whatever from Matt and Kazra from the IC3, right? Are they doing that on the regular now? Because
I don't know. They just did one. It was really hard to sit through, and I felt okay. I'm done at 6:30 every night, like literally done.
You're like my brother.
I'm done. I don't have, my brain molecules are basically down to 7. And they're just to get me a glass of wine and, put myself to bed. But all I kept thinking, and it was a 2-hour show that started at 8:00, and I'd be on at 9:45 going, I'm working on a Turbo Chromecom. I just was like, dude, but it's also goes back to what we were saying this morning. Brett just jumped in here. Morning, Brett. We
got Saboteur and Apex. Hey guys.
Yep. And and it's long form content is hard for everybody. Everybody looks at how long the video is and judges, am I going to spend that 35 minutes? Am I going to spend that 2.5 hours? Am I going to spend that 3 hours? Excuse me. But I'm hoping they break some of those things up. So we can see, I think they had 10 guests on, but they were giving a whole bunch of updates. I'm going to be there in the morning, help setting up. So that starts at 8:00 in the morning. So I don't know if I'm going to be up till 2:00. Who knows? I'll push my way through it, but I want to really support those guys. in, you know, setting everything up, and just because if this show goes away, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
Yeah, so it's the kind of thing. Well, you can see it later, can't you?
What?
When they're doing that, if you're half in the bag, you can just watch the replay, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, it is up there right now on. Do they have an IC3 channel, YouTube channel, or is it? No, it's on CAF Plus. I think is
Right.
what their YouTube channel is. Yeah, because they're a part of
So
that.
there you go. So you don't have to watch it live necessarily.
No, but they did invite us, or you know, everybody who's going to be at the show to come and do a presentation, a 10-minute presentation. So
Yeah, well, I was just wondering about putting my hat in the ring because I just got to get a little organized, but maybe I don't know if I want to do that or not. I guess I'll promote my comic and my stuff and the whole idea.
I think
But
it's great. It's a great opportunity. It's just I wish, you know, I think that's another thing to complain about is, you know, I also don't keep normal hours. Like my days off are Wednesdays and Thursdays, and I'm done by 6:30 every day. You know, like it's just everybody seems to be hanging out at 10 o'clock at night. You know, and it's just like, oh my God. I'm never going to get invited to a podcast. You know, I just wish most of these podcasts would run, you know, in the afternoons, like whatever, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, in the afternoons, like anywhere between like 10 to 5, you know, like I think of it this way. I run my podcast for Crom. I start either around 10 or 11 o'clock. And I know, I mean, I get some good show ups, you know, because I'm sure, you know, not particularly artists are waiting, you know, for somebody to listen to while they're working, as I have. But you know, it's one of those things where I just want to do it to get it out there, not have to edit it, so it goes up live and then it's there. But the majority of my watches are after like 9 o'clock. You know, when I go back in, I get a little boost when I'm doing it, and then it just all goes to nothing. And then everybody finds the video at 9 o'clock at night and then watches it and goes from there. So,
well,
thank you, Brett. Thank you, Brett.
You also have different time zones going on too.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
Woo woo, Jay Kurt the wino. I was going to say the same thing, Apex.
I am a wino.
Kurt's like, you know what it is? After 6:30, I just can't get out. I can't keep my eyes open. Yeah, you're sitting there drinking a box of wine. Keep going with your show. This is a rare and informative show. Watching you guys on your book, plus occasional guests. Yeah, we're getting back to the guests. You know, this episode, this is what I love doing the most, is just drawing and talking.
Yeah.
But I do want to get into a little content because, you know, I think sometimes we neglect content. We might go like weeks at a time without talking about content. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you know, people are going to look at our podcast in the future, not based on you know some great pearls of wisdom that we're talking about. Like we're just two guys, you know, giving our take on life and everything. What they're going to tune in for, and this is Kurt saying this, is they want to see the making of the comic later when they have the comic in their hand. You know, and they can go back and say, wow, they're working on that page here, they're working on this page, right? And you know, people might be familiar with some of these pages that we've already produced, right? These are already inked, and these are already word ballooned, and they're already you know, published. But what about these other pages that we're working on? So I have you know, I went over briefly what's going on page 27 before. Kurt is doing he's doing the 80% inks on issue number 2, where they're kind of in the middle of a battle scene, and I see Kurt has the page where they're getting those little tumble wire devices, and they're going to be
This is a
throwing.
great page. This is a great page. Page 7. This page 7 issue 2.
Yeah, so that's when the hate breeders bust through the window and attack them right in the middle of the van. They're climbing all over the van, and Turbo is defending the van. So that's what I mean by content, like, ass kicking action or dialogue or inventive and imaginative stuff. So I printed out some notes, and this is like the kind of stuff, right? So this one is called Elevena Beats. And this was kind of like a beat sheet that I did about a future comic. This is like the process of planning way ahead of time before I take pencil to paper, thinking about what's gonna go on in the story. Now, there's a couple of schools of thought when it comes to indie comics, because Kurt, you and I, we love a lot of indie comics, and we've interviewed a lot of people that the content and what's happening in the story is kind of like an afterthought, right? It's like, oh, well, the story is, I'm just going to have some people kicking ass, and maybe they have some characters, and maybe they have some concepts, but it isn't like so meticulously thought out for like months in advance and years in advance like I do. Those comics are just as valid, because comics are really about the art. They really are. I mean, there's story in there, but I think it's a lot rarer that like a writer, like somebody's like buying a comic, because there's a writer. I mean, it affects my decisions sometimes, but I think there might only be a handful of writers, out of all the thousands and hundreds of thousands of writers. So, so sometimes this is really kind of lost in the sauce. But I did want to share some of these ideas on the video here today, because we are showing our process, and this isn't necessarily for a Turbo comic. This is for a future Elevena comic. We spoke about Elevena a little bit in one episode when we were doing her on the index, and we had pictures of her. But Elevena is a character that was the daughter of Esoterra. Her name is Elevena because she was born after 10 miscarriages, so she was the 11th. The 11th try that worked, a miracle baby or whatever. But here it says Esoterra was the one that was perceived as supernatural, Elevena's mom. Elevena's actual mission was to reverse engineer Esoterra's abilities scientifically so they could be replicated. So in this little world we set up, Esoterra is going to be this kind of like superhero-ish character. She looks like this right here, and this is how Ken Landgraf drew her right here. Well, you can see her right here, but yeah, she just kind of comes here in the scene. Yeah, right here, and she has these abilities that even she can't explain. So she undertakes to engineer a test tube daughter that will have such advanced intelligence that she can figure out how Esoterra is able to do these things and then replicate it so that other humans can be enhanced the same way. And that is the charge of baby Elevena ever since she's born. And she's like a child prodigy. She's like genius level. She's got all these quantum supercomputers at her disposal, and not just that, but scientific apparatus like what do they call those things? Super colliders, and what are the other ones that they have where they spin stuff around like little centrifuges, right?
Centrifuge.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So so Esoterra's abilities scientifically could be replicated. That's why Elevena created the rectifiers, 5 enhanced super soldiers trying to match what Esoterra could do naturally. So Elevena's breakthroughs weren't just in food genetics, but in human enhancement too. We have it where Elevena is coming through with these quantum breakthroughs that change the nature of the food supply, so that you can get more nutrition out of food. You ever think about that, Kurt? Like when we consume food, how much of it is actually stuff that our body uses, and how much of it is just waste? That just travels through our body. And if they could sort that out so that it was a lot more, nutritious and a lot less waste, right? Like, isn't that an interesting thing about food? And it's of course been like that for millions of years. That so much of it is just passing through. But what happens in the future if they make that more efficient? Interesting question, right?
I agree.
So Elevena's breakthroughs were in food genetics. This is when she's not even like 11 years old, but in human enhancement, and that's what spiraled out of control. Wrong people got access to that tech. So for page 3, we are showing Elevena working on the rectifiers, or are we jumping to the consequences of what happened when her enhancement research got weaponized? I'm asking myself a question there. And we couldn't even name the super soldiers. The first one is Charvel. The next one is Shadow. I changed that. It's not Shadow anymore. It's Window with a Y. The next one is Pitch Blend. The next one is Quadra. And the next one is Chevron. So a new page 1 is a pinup montage. Oh, so here, this is me in the car. I'm actually talking to my voice recognition app. And this is me sending text messages or an email to myself so that I remember all this kind of stuff for later. And I'm going over it now a little bit. Page 1 is going to be a pinup montage of young adult Elevena, maybe 15 or 16, with shadowy silhouettes of the rectifiers behind her, even though they're slightly older, ages 18 to 24. That sets up the visual dynamic between her as the creator and them as creations. Balloon 1. I don't act like other kids. Then again, I don't act like adults either. Normies waste so much time on consumption when they could be doing research to improve the world. Balloon 2. Science isn't hard. It just requires patience. Patience to run trials and record results. Every day reveals new data. The scientific method is my God, my religion, my code. Balloon 3. Science can be relied on any time to be there, to work, to be consistent. It helps me get through anything. Science is the only thing I truly trust in this world. So this is page 1, right? So I love this. This is page 1. It's a montage with a couple of word balloons. Page 2 shows young Elevena at ages 7, 8, and 9 in the lab. Age 7 in the maintenance jumpsuit, fixing supercomputer consoles. Age 8 with goggles, extracting chemicals with Anya beside her. Anya is going to be her robot companion. And age 9 writing notes with monitors showing trial results and charts about protein strains and waste percentages. The narration covers how she doesn't act like other kids or adults. And right, so that this is kind of repetitive. I already did this in the previous. Panel 1, Elevena appears at a screen at a ribbon cutting ceremony in an African diaspora setting, celebrating the launch of her genetically enhanced food. Panel 2, another ribbon cutting in a big urban center with food production being little growing areas and vertical gardens with special lights and nutrients, and sprayers, mixers, all of the perfect inputs. You know this is coming, by the way, right? Because this is what they're doing on space stations is vertical gardens, where like they have just enough dirt to grow the food, and like it's like enhanced with minerals and fertilizers and and like additives that.
Well, when it comes down to food, you don't need cheeseburgers and French fries to survive. You don't even need carrots and fresh fish to survive. You need the proteins and nutrients that they provide. And there's two things if you're interested in nutrition. One being eating seasonally, because we're actually designed that way. And evolutionary, it's one of the things that cause us to be so sick. And then the second thing is to cut out anything that has no nutritional value. And this is actually how, like soda pop or pizza, for instance. Pizza has no nutritional value whatsoever. No matter what people try to sell you or tell you, there's no nutritional value in pizza. So if you could eat a square of your, not only it, I don't know if you could, I'm not that deep into nutrition, but I doubt you could eat one square or something in the morning and be satiated by your nutrients and the value intake. But if you had to eat 2 or 3 of them throughout the day, that's very possible.
Right, and right. So this is the future that I'm contemplating here, and not just Elevena, but later on Polska is going to be a character that creates these sausages that are just like infinitely more nutritious than anything else. And the reason is because they contain concentrated proteins that are made out of engineered grub worms and other species that are packed with protein, designed to be packed with protein and packed with nutrients, and just the amount of fats that you need and just the amount of nutrition and everything. I mean, they'll have this all sorted out in the future. So that's what, so that's the kind of stuff that Elevena really attracts attention. And they the corporations that are all consolidated under the De Huberton umbrella are at a disadvantage, because here's Elevena with her mom Esoterra, but her mom's kind of absentee. They're kind of giving this all away to different countries and to different scientific communities and stuff, and so they really need to hack her data and get into her stuff, and so they do so by hacking into the university that she was using. She was using the Dardwick University, which is a fictional university that we set up to peer review all of her work and then release it, because some of it, and we're gonna have it in the beginning, they can't reveal that Elevena is only 10, when she's coming out with all this stuff, because that would, people refuse to believe it, right? And so a lot of her research is laundered through Dardwick University, and Dardwick loves it because it's making them seem like geniuses, and they're winning all the Nobel prizes and everything. But in reality, it's all coming from Elevena. So for panel two, another ribbon cutting in an urban center, right? We talk about the vertical gardens and special lights and nutrients and sprayers. This says, he's very cruel and he inherited a large sprawling business. He was bitter because he wanted to inherit the money from his parents and grandparents. We had a giant pleasure bot emporium and empire and manufacturing global facility. So this is, I think we call him Le Montague de Huberton.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the husband of Shankar Vaish. Panel 3. And this is going to be a lot earlier. So this probably doesn't even belong here in the Elevena story. This is going to be way before. A narration box. I'm going to write move earlier. Panel 3, a narration box says, Elevena's research fell into the wrong hands. Now let me introduce you to those hands. Then we show a de Huberton. So this is a later de Huberton that'll be stealing her food research. I'm actually thinking about making this the Dr. Bruno Moroder anyway, and not a D. Huberton. Next chronologically would be her observations about how humans cling to outdated customs and traditions, religion blocking progress for hundreds of years, and corporate food being slow suicide since McDonald's 300 years ago. Yeah, so I do have this comment, like, what we're talking about, a lot of the food that we're getting is useless, right? And it just kind of passes through. But what about food that is actually detrimental, right? That's actually toxic or unhealthy. So McDonald's, I don't mean to just pick on McDonald's. You also have all the other fast food joints, but but they're the biggest. So this says, let's show Inverter and his barracks of evil empire futuristic sanctorum, where he's got pleasure bots and production lines, vehicle and weapons manufacturing from other associated industries, and we have to get into some melee where his face gets shredded. So so this is the unbeknownst one, and I think we're getting into because UB1 is he's younger, and he's like Elevena's generation. He might be a little older than Elevena, but he's going to be the bad guy in Elevena's solo story. And he inherits the business from Le Montague. That's his dad. Right. So now this is making sense. So Le Montague, so we're going to say that this is the dad of UB1. See, this is all making sense now. I'm taking like all this random notes that I did in my car when I was driving one day, and I'm making sense of this so that I can block out an actual comic page by page. This says panel 1 of page 7. I think I'm jumping around here. This shows unbeknownst one's futuristic centaur. Right. So this is kind of like what narration or dialogue goes with this panel? It will be a new chapter title right mid-page, and it will be called Elevator's 2 years. When Elevena turns 20 is a big deal because she had been developing a large following just as her mother had. So the Esso devotees were a huge cult that were pursuing personal enhancement or personal abilities and developing abilities. So Elevena, it's a little different because it's more about survival at that time because the De Hubertons had advanced so much. So the Tuesday cults worship the number 2, and they plan major events around dates with 2s in them. Protests, barn raisings, vertical farm launches, ribbon cuttings. Does this tie into Elevena turning 20? Or is this background context? Some of this stuff is just repeating for some reason. Panel 3 shows the Tuesday cult celebrating Elevena turning 20 on February 12th, 2218. So there's a lot of 2s there. This is going to be 2/12/2218. A word balloon explains, today marks Elevena's 20th birthday, February 12, 2218, a sacred date filled with the holy number 2. The Tuesday cults gather to celebrate. Panel 3, Elevena as a cute baby in a hoodie wearing her little robot suit. Remember, Elevena is going to be in this traction suit that makes her physically stronger every day, but it's hard for her to move around it because it's creating AI resistance everywhere she goes. Word balloon explains she was born February 12th, 2198. The Tuesday cults celebrate her because of the 2s in the date. They consider February 22nd and December 22nd the big Tuesdays each year, twice yearly celebrations where they felt she was a holy person. Anything else for this panel? Panel 3 has So she was kind of like celebrated when she was just a kid, because she was born on this date, on a date with a lot of twos in it. Panel 4 shows the unbeknownst one kidnapping one of the rectifiers with a note directing readers to see the story in the battles of Quadra. That's like planting seeds for later. Panel 5, or the next section, explains that UB1 tussled many times with the rectifiers and Elevena from her late teens through her 20th birthday celebrations throughout the year. Now, as a sidebar, we need to come up with some devastatingly important events that happened on those Tuesdays that year. The Tuesday cults plan incredibly devastating important events for February 22nd and December 22nd each year. And when they entered the 2220s, they'll be extremely excited as the drum beats for the year 2222. Each year, the Tuesday, right. UB1 reverse engineered Elevena's genetic enhancement technology, backwards mapped the food and synthetic meat to copy the DNA structures. He is surrounded by robotic turbines swirling pink slime swill. The knockoff synthetic meat he created by reverse engineering Elevena's technology, fed to people on the Life Plan subscription services. And then we just have some rougher notes here. Page 1, yeah. Page 2. Oh, this is just summarizing it all. This is cool. I don't know if I had AI to do this.
I have a feeling you did, because when you said you had a repeat there earlier,
Yeah.
that's a popular thing that they will inject and to reiterate things. It's almost like a reminder to themselves too.
Right. This might have been a transcript.
You know,
right?
you do a
Like
lot
I
of that.
say it and they say it.
Yeah, riding home from work. I mean,
so yeah. So there's nothing new here. There's a couple. Let's see. Survivors in mini societies doing vertical gardening and mutual aid. A couple with 3 kids in a cargo van transporting goods. Panel 4. Tuesday cults members on futuristic skateboards and motorcycles with 3D printers and smelters, functional until 2222. Elevena's green zones and Green Gate. Oh, that's interesting. Green Gate. That's going to be maybe like a security pass, you know. As continued, inherited from the Mayo twins, unifying the cults under one banner. Panel 6. Elevena in a pneumatic exoskeleton suit drawn Jeff Darrow style. Running up ramps with Anya beside her, the suit being a prison within a prison. Panel 3, a 45, a mural on a wall, I hate my life, that she painted towards her mother. The Pleasure Bot, Barracks, Elevena at 20. Yeah, a lot of good stuff here to start doing some visuals. And I don't think there's anything new here. No, so this is a sheet. So I'm going to make a note. So what's my call to action? So I'm going to write sketch from this. And I'm going to start doing some sketches in my pad. And some of that might be, you know, pinups. Some of it might be, you know, roughs for panels. But this is content. This is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. This is the kind of stuff that
Batmerk has just arrived. All hail.
Hey, Batmerk, let's see. Apex is really concerned that we're going to take away all the cheeseburgers. Like AOC, I remember she said, like, people have to stop eating so much meat. And then the Republicans are all like, she's going to take away our hamburgers. It is true, though. We would be a lot better off if we stop eating so much meat. Because you think about it, right? We're raising this cow, let's say, or a steer beef, a beef steer, I think they call it, and that animal could be eating like 50,000 sacks of grain over their lifetime just to kill them one time so that we can get a bunch of hamburgers. Well, why don't we just eat all those sacks of grain instead?
Boring.
Right. So
There's your answer.
when you think about it, right, like how much food that a human could eat are we feeding to an animal just so that we can have that delectable, juicy burger, one time? Now, I'm also gonna, Kurt, when you were talking about like how much of the food is unnecessary, there is pleasure that people get
Oh
from
yeah. Oh yeah.
food,
Trust
eating
me.
food,
Oh yeah.
and I mean, as somebody that that sits down with a box of wine every day,
Hey, it's
um,
not boxes, by the way, people. I am a bit of a. I'm a. Not only am I a wino, but I'm a snob.
oh
So,
boy,
oh yeah,
really?
yeah. Don't
So
come to me at a show with a box of wine wanting to trade off, because
I
you're gonna
tease
get.
because I care. Um, but yeah, so now they're gonna come to you with a vintage bottle of something,
Hey, that's what I'm looking forward to, because that's my last guilty pleasure. I will
right?
say, that's it.
Um, so yeah, what if the two cubes are getting were in the
Bat
shape of
Merck, Bat Merck
cheeseburger,
said, or buy the cow and make cheese.
or buy the cow and
And
make
make
yeah.
cheese. Yeah.
Um, Apex, right? The Apex. Well, we have Apex Comics here, but we're also talking about the Apex Predators. We're also talking about like the food chain. The humans at the top of the food chain. Ale and hail, everyone. Yes, I could eat those cubes. Right. I mean, it's going to take the fun out of eating if we just pop a cube in the future, right? But that's what they do in space. They have everything in these boring pouches, and it's all dehydrated, and they have to add water to it. That's how Tang got invented. Um, and a really interesting thing about society, which is really important for our mental health, is socializing. So if we didn't have the excuse to get together and have lunch with somebody, there would be a lot less socializing going on. So we do need to recognize the ritualistic nature of eating. You know, like when I was in Japan, um, I couldn't believe it. Like you go to one of these restaurants, and you're just eating sushi, but they set you out with a little plate, and then they give you a little, a little like a little dish, for the soy sauce. Then they bring you the soy sauce. Then they bring you a little dish for the wasabi. Then they bring you a little dish for the ginger, and then they bring you a little dish. And like everything is like this little ritual and everything, right?
Yep.
Like you could literally go to a vending machine and just get the whole thing in one little container, in one little cardboard, tray. But it's like no, we are making this into we're making this into a production, and I love that, because you need to hang out. We're talking to your friends, and really restaurants drag things out like that because they want you to drink. They would say, well, maybe they'll order another drink or two. But it's really important. I mean, it's funny, Kurt, when you read the news and you see like how people are drinking so much less, right? Especially like the 20 somethings of today, the teens of the 20s, something they used to be sneaking out every night and drinking. They're no longer doing that. And, they are doing other things. They're doing maybe like cannabis products and stuff, but it takes away the ritual. And so, bars are really hurting, and sometimes it's bar restaurants, so they might have food and they might have drink, but the real profit is in the drinks. So that's all being hurt now by the fact that society is changing and moving away from that. And I stopped drinking, a- like I would say like 90% of my drinking I stopped during the pandemic, and I haven't gone back to it. So now every time I am in a bar, it's just to hang out with my friends, right? And I'm sitting there, and it's really awkward because the bartender comes up to me and is like, what will you have? And I'm just like, well, I'm just hanging out with my friends, really. So that's the only drinking I do nowadays is like I'll order like a shot, and I'll just sit there with it. And what I do is I just like dump it into a tall glass of water, and then I just nurse it the whole time, because it's literally just an excuse for me to be in the bar and spend time with my friends, right? And so, I think a lot of people, we used to have this thing called social drinking, where people used to get together, and maybe they're peer pressured into doing it because that's just what we do. But a lot of people are rethinking that now. And for me, it's mostly on the advice of my doctor, not to drink. That my doctor was telling me, oh, he goes, the stuff that we're realizing about alcohol right now, it's like no amount is good for you. I'm like, well, that's depressing. And
That's
they're
only
like,
if you want to live long.
right, right. And so it is, it's a vice, and it is a choice that everybody makes every single day. How much should I have? How much shouldn't I have? And we all go through a period when we're teenagers of saying, oh, this is great, man, I'm gonna get drunk
Well,
every day.
here's another thing though. It's like going back on the creativity, not specifically obviously with comics, but the invention of some other way to gather in public, spend money and time, is coming down the future. You know what I mean? Like that. I think one of the things like, getting trashed at a
Well,
bar,
that's religion.
it might be going away in some portions, but I don't think it's going away fast enough for, people to start migrating to some other thing that hasn't been imagined yet. You know what I mean? And that's truly on the younger generation. They will, come up with something. But I mean, like one of my favorite movies, and it is because of its historical place and time, which is one of my favorite American historical places in time, is Saturday Night Fever and the discotheque.
Yeah,
And that the disco didn't really exist until, what was it, like 77, 78? And it
yeah.
was a New York thing, right, Jake?
New York was the center of the universe, but you have a disco in every single town.
Yeah, or no, maybe disco was out of Chicago, because that's also where house music comes out of. But
Mm.
anyhow, you had this, and you might laugh, but if you watch Saturday Night Fever as just purely a historical cultural thing,
Yeah,
they were going there to dance and be seen dancing, hear the upcoming new records, plus the new dance moves. And, Tony was the thing because he was integrating what was new and happening and making it his own, and obviously dazzling, everybody, from that way. But it was always so like, I don't know, man. It's a very like, like, I don't want to say far away thing now. I mean, I was a club kid, so we used to go to clubs, from New York City to DC through the 90s, the Tunnel, Limelight, there's a couple down in DC. Philly is where I spent the majority of my time. But yeah, Daryl. No, thank you. Yeah. Gay Latino Black community circa 73, 77. But was it New York, Daryl? Or was it another city that kind of like initiated it? And that's just my point, though. That the lack of something causes people to create. That's the thing. I think when you try to do it in the way of like monetarily, like, oh, let's invent disco, doesn't work. It's just not, it's not, especially when it comes to like people feeling a sense of like liberating freedom and like let go and easygoing and stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, it was a fad or a craze, whatever you want to call it, and then, very soon after that, you had hip hop, which was also, different style of music and everything, but it came right on the heels of it, and you had a lot of the same kind of like, producers and record companies and everything, and executives capitalizing on
yeah,
it. I mean, isn't that great? Like, you have the music, the art, and the dance. And when it comes to hip hop, so the music is cutting, mixing, scratching, DJing, all that, rapping, and then the art is like the graffiti and all the album covers and everything, and then the dancing, it's like break dancing and electro boogie and all this stuff. In
yeah,
disco era, it was the music was Gloria Gaynor and Donna Summer and the Bee Gees and all the hits that we all know from the disco era. The art was, the fashion, the hairstyles, just like the aesthetic, and the dancing was all these new moves, that everybody was trying to do. And Saturday Night Fever was, it was life imitating art because there was like maybe this like disco culture that was happening. Hollywood said, well, we got to capitalize on this, we got to make a movie about this. And then what it did was that created the culture all around the world,
yeah,
and it took it from one place. And the same thing happened with a couple of graffiti movies too, with a couple of
break in.
Breaking and Beach Street and Wild
Yep.
Style,
Yep.
And it brought it all around the world. And we don't realize, because we're all American and we're American centric, and we only care about what happens here, and we only know what happens here. But when those movies, they were low budget movies and they were small time movies here. When they went to like China and Germany and Italy and everywhere else, they were studied.
Yeah.
They were and now those guys have like international annual breakdancing competitions, and that we don't even have here, because like America just we have our fads and our movements and everything, and then we just chew it up and spit it out after Hollywood made all their money, and after the record companies all made their money, and the fashion studios all made their money. We just move on to the next thing. But countries that are like 5 or 10 years behind us culturally spend a lot more time on that, and that's why.
So, God damn it, we gotta. So Brett's got Gen Zers will have to go to 50-cent beer night to dollar drink night. Lots of girls to choose from as your dance partners. Yeah, it was for my buddies and I, that we always had a place to go to. 30 Franks was one in Philly. And it was oh damn it, there was another one that did $1 PBRs and $1 nachos. I mean, of course, the nachos was like 6 chips and some like cheese whiz, but it didn't matter. Like on like $5, you could kickstart. Yeah, you were kickstarting a night on $5, and that was, and there would be possible like connecting. There might be another group of a group of girls, my guys, and we would just be like, hey, can we buy you a drink, or where are you guys going tonight? Oh, there's gonna be a big thing at the at the bank, or blah blah blah. The truck's got the like, oh yeah, we're heading there too. Oh, maybe we'll see each other. And it was dude, my 90s. I lived from 80. I started clubbing in 88, and then I bailed out in 98. So I spent a solid 10 years clubbing from DC to New York, because it was in Baltimore in school that I started clubbing, or was introduced to it, I should say. And best friend's DJ. So it was like, very, very rarely did we have to pay to get in, because if he was getting a a spot, then we would just carry the records in and stuff. You know, it was just but the energy. If I was to say there was anything feeling bad, was um, I just had so much fun. Like I really did it.
Well,
I did my job in the 20s, my 20s, and burned out. You know, on just having fun and being reckless with money and time and stuff, and you know, look back in fond memory.
Yeah, I mean, when you're that age range, you know, and everybody's going through that now. That's that age range, you know.
Yeah.
But there's things, you know, happening differently now because of culturally and technologically, and you know, I mean, you know, we speak about it all the time about the disconnect in social interactions that are happening now. And you know, I'm talking with a lot of different people about this online. You know, they're all looking at this in different ways, you know, because it isn't just the education people, you know, worrying about little kids. It's 20 somethings who are rapidly becoming 30 somethings.
Yeah.
And you know, they're very, very concerned about the birth rate, and they're very, very concerned about mental health. And like, I think this new thing just came out this week, since we last spoke last week, about 1 out of 10. Yeah, that's what it was. I could show it to you. 1 out of 10 uh, respondents between the ages of like 21 and 27 say they have no human contact at all in the course of a day.
Oh, god damn! Where are these people?
1 out of 10, I know. And you know, 1 out of 10 isn't that much, you know, but you wouldn't think, like, I mean, these are hermits now, right?
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, and you know, and so people are arguing about what's causing it, and you know, a lot of people are blaming the pandemic, and they're blaming, you know, schools and teachers, and you know, it was because you guys kept the schools closed and everything. And you know, I'm sure that's a part of it, because it was not great what happened during the pandemic. It wasn't great for anybody. But these are the ramifications that we're dealing with 5 and 6 years later. And you know, what are we gonna do? You know, it's
Well, we
almost
don't have to. We my we, okay, doesn't have to do anything about it. Like my feeling is like once you get to about 55, you've done your job. You know what I mean? You got another like 10 years to just kind of keep pushing through at whatever it is you do. But once you get to like 65, 67, you know, the American dream is that you retire, you know, and retirement's not just the money aspect, collect your social security check and sit around and do nothing. That's not what I'm speaking to. It's that I put enough my time, energy, and effort into society that it's no longer my problem. Like it is the younger
right.
people's
I'm not.
problem.
I'm not putting it on you. What
No,
you know?
I know you're not. I'm not coming at you about it, Jake. I know you're not. I know you're
No, I'm
saying
not
it
putting
from
it on
the
you, and I'm not putting it on, you know, the older generation or the retirees or anything. I'm putting it on, uh, you know, our civil planners, because you got to have people working, and you got to, you know, I mean, this is the way our economy is set up. We need workers, and we need people buying things, and you know, what Kurt and I are doing is we're spending a lot. We're spending our time and our energy on a pastime, you know, which a lot of people love. You know, comics is just, you know, one area of people, you know, that do stuff. You know, we could talk about people that spend their money and their time like clubbing, or you know, doing anything. Could be bird watching, could be vacation, travel, whatever. But we need, like, we have a very fragile economy that is kind of unsustainable at the rate that we're seeing, like this kind of social isolation now, because
yeah, but maybe that's the youth's. Maybe that's the youth of America or even the world's revenge on the old people, us. You know, Gen Z and Gen X and Boomers. You know what I mean? Like I've had pretty decent conversations in the amount of like getting to know young people, especially when I was at Trader Joe's, and almost every single one of them made a remark that, was the problem is all of these old people running the country and businesses. That is the problem. And I in all sincerity agree. Like, you can't sit here and tell me having anybody over the age of 70 in government or commercial leading industry wise is got their pulse on what's going on. They don't. They're trying to actually hold on to, because constituents and people that are getting paid out by their investment with that said company and industry, they just want everything to kind of stand still for as long as possible. Where the struggle is then, and this is the American way, everybody, is you get on a ladder and you work your ass off until you get to the top of that ladder and you make the changes. Problem though is, we all know the younger generation, they want to get in a helicopter and they want to go up the fucking mountain. That's what they want. They want, just get me in the mountain and I'll be president. If I was president, this is what I would do.
And also, you have, when it comes to voting and elections, you have more older people voting than younger people, so they end up getting more representation, and that's why we end up with 80-year-old presidents and 75.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
So what we need to do, what we need to do as a society. I'm not talking about Kurt, but we need to match make a lot more than we are.
What?
No,
I don't.
And we need boys and girls to have babies. That's what we need.
I agree. I disagree with you
and
on that too.
Other countries. I mean, this is happening in Japan. There's a crisis in Japan.
Yeah, but
this is happening. The birth rate in the developed world is going way, way down, and the birth rate in the third world, which is like the people, who are in these dirt poor places where there's not enough resources, and they end up having, bad health and bad lives, is where they have the most babies, because they're trying to do it for survival. They're like, well, maybe one of these kids, will actually make some money and they can support the family or something. So, it's kind of a concern that that we're seeing red flags for right now.
So we got a lot of good action going on in there, and use it or lose it, Bad Merc, as at his thing. And where's Bert? We need to get back to night. We get even dance clubs and spinner racks. That's exactly what I want in my retirement plan. Because I would love nothing more than to, like my wife too, is she's totally down for this. If there was a middle of the afternoon, mind you, it's got to be at like 3 or 4 o'clock, to be able to go to a dance club, just dance. Like, I don't understand why somebody in a Gen X mentality has. I'm sure there is. I mean, I'm sure if you live in major cities in this country or maybe even the world, they're like, wow, because there are. My buddy's a DJ. He still is. He's migrated up into weddings and corporate parties, as well as doing club DJing. But the club DJing is pales in comparison to what really kind of comes through. But he does do, but it's like a happy hour type of thing. So it's like it's all just for Gen X. From like 5:30 to 7. And then as soon as like 7:30 starts creeping in, then he completely has to move the entire record set over to, all these people who I don't know that are making music and needs to be danced to and stuff like that. So, but
Well, I'm seeing DJ booths in the weirdest places.
Hell yeah, Bad Wormhole, Matt King, afternoon rave scene, no question mark, bro. It's all explanation. Dude, Matt, you're a DJ. Get your shit together, man. Let's put something. Let's let you.
I've seen DJ booths at coffee shops. I've seen DJ booths at department stores. They're trying. DJ booths are cool, they're trying to put them in places that are not cool. you know, and you're seeing that more and more. You know what I just got an email for? They're so worried about people voting, not coming out and voting in November's elections, that they're going to be setting up DJ booths in the streets on election day
Okay.
to try to get people out into the streets and celebrating, like, you know, voting, like, let's all vote and then we'll dance, you know, stuff like that. So afternoon rave scene, stop the nonsense. No, this is what's happening. I got an email. They were asking me if I know any DJs, and I think, you know, because they might be looking for, like, you know, the DJs to volunteer their time. It's like, oh, you can make a great following with these 75-year-old blue-haired ladies, you know. Yeah, sure. But yeah, I mean, I love spinning records, man. Don't, you know, anytime, any place is fine with me. It's just, you know, when they're doing it for the wrong reasons, it's like, you know, no, I'm sorry. You know, nobody's going to get up and start dancing in a coffee house in, like, you know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, unless you put something in the coffee, you know. That's
Yeah.
another. That's another.
Like a nice red wine. MTV's Rock the Vote. Oh shit, that's right. That's how good old Bill Clinton got it.
I think, no,
playing the sax. What's that?
It was Obama. It was Obama.
Oh, Obama's Rock the Vote.
Yeah, maybe both. Maybe both.
Yeah, they both probably used it. Yeah.
Yeah, they
wake
actually,
up the youth. Wake up.
They actually registered a shit ton of people with that, you know, because it was a lot of people that were sitting on their ass watching MTV,
yeah,
you know, and then not voting, and so they did figure that out. But, you know, now it's like they're going to be doing. I mean, you know how much money they spend per vote now in some of these elections? It's like $500 per vote. Some, you know, how much is being spent in these campaigns.
Yeah. Advertising.
Spinner racks of $1 comics at voting booths.
Hey.
That'll get all the nerds out. That'll get all the comic nerds out. But yeah, you know, we need. What's not happening is sex. Sex is not happening. Everything is saying, like, sex is more of a chore now for people, and, you know, a lot of this is coming off the Me Too movement, where, you know, our American courtship rituals turn out to be pretty.
Yes.
What's that?
I'm sorry. Matt Berg just posted Monica Lewinsky is hotter now. Oh, it's awesome.
Is she?
It's awesome. It's true.
She came into her own. She had all that baby fat before, right?
Come on. That is great.
How old is she now? Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah. Come on.
All right. She, you know, I guess she was, like, maybe a little chubbier before, but
fine by me.
I mean, she has a great sense of humor, but whenever she's at a cocktail party and they're like, "Oh, what are you famous for?"
Dude, Jake, are you watching these comments? See, this is where technology. I wish YouTube and OBS right now had the ability, if like anybody who was in the chat wanted to, like, just get, like, a little window down here in the corner and just, like, they don't have to show their face. They could just be, like, you know, like, barking in with us and stuff. But, you know, you got Brett, you got Batman.
Well, they have that on Substack.
You got Matt. Huh?
I said they have that tool on Substack.
What do you mean?
You can join the fun as a split screen on Substack.
Oh, so you could be added to the live? Like, if I came in to yours, like, you could actually add.
Yeah,
that's an interesting feature.
I did it with Matt.
That's nice to hear that they're doing that. Yeah. A majority of women now have really high standards. Now, women have always had high standards, dude. They've always. God bless them for it too. God bless. You know what I mean? Like, I remember we used to pay. We would go to a club we hadn't been to for a while, or we had never been to, and we would pay the doorman. We would pay him $10 if the ratio was more women to men. But if he would be like straight up, dude, don't come in, we'd give him $20. But if it was a good night, like we went in and there was like a lot of girls and you got numbers and all that kind of stuff, on the way out, you then gave the doorman another $20.
On the way out.
Yeah, on the out. So he made like, 10, you got the honesty out of him because you didn't want to go in, pay the cover, right? And then be sitting there waiting for, ladies to show up. But, it's I don't know. I mean, you hear all about this, like, oh, Japan and all these people, they're not fucking and they're not making babies. Da, 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 da. Well, as much as people might want to believe we can go against the evolutionary system, it's a lie. It's a lie, And I just think the majority of that information is coming out of metropolitan areas. Because I think out in the rurals, man, those people are making more kids than you can freaking wave a stick at. They're having a great time. They're getting married, divorced, married again, carrying those kids over into that marriage and stuff. I mean, I don't. And I also think it's so ass backwards. Once again, going back to my confused, contemplative state of like, being productive, you couldn't pay me enough money to bring a child into this world because there's no world for that child to be inspired towards, And I think that's probably the major reason people are like, just like, really? My life sucks right now. And it has for a long time. Why the hell would I just, I'm going to bring a baby into my life because it'd make me that much happier. What? Like, okay, maybe until the baby's in 2.5 and then start panicking, and it's just, then you got all these people living in parents' basements, grandparents' basements and all this kind of stuff. If there was way more access to like productivity and anything like that, but
here's the graph since the baby boom, straight down. And interestingly, it's been leveled off since about 2018. So this is before the pandemic. It just leveled out. And I think that might have been more like the Me Too movement.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
I mean, Kurt, have you, and all you guys in the chat, have you guys like revisited a Pepe Le Pew cartoon?
I never stopped. I was
because like, there used to be like like a Popeye and olive oil, and like, when olive oil would be alone with Bluto, it would be like basically sexual harassment, right? Like, come on.
No,
like,
Bluto was her original. Olive oil's original.
No, please, no.
No, but they were dating before Popeye.
What?
Yeah.
Olive
Oil and Bluto were. I think they were even at one point in the way beginning before Popeye became kind of the central character. They were betrothed to each other to become married. And then Popeye came along and was like, I Goyle, blah, 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 I want you to be my Goyle, and then it became this big competitiveness. That's why they were fist fighting all the time, is it was over olive oil.
Yeah, I mean, there was a strip where Popeye was just like a kind of like a throwaway character.
Yeah.
And there was
but then people started
olive oil
identifying
and his brother Castor Oil.
Yeah.
I don't remember Bluto or Brutus in the strip, but I know that by the time they had kind of like formularized the cartoon, it was always Popeye saving olive oil, and we could even talk about like Mighty Mouse, and we could talk about, Dastardly Dan and like, all this stuff. It was always, threatening the woman, stealing her, kidnapping her, and there was always this kind of implication of sexual threat, and I, like somebody was telling me, like, they've taken all the Pepe Le Pew cartoons off the they can't show them
It's
anymore
their
because
loss. It's their loss.
what's that?
It's their loss.
Well, I mean, it was great animation and it was hysterical, but it shows basically a skunk. Like every episode, it was like a female black cat somehow ended up with a white paint strip on her back, and the skunk, and that made the skunk think that it was a skunk, and that he was
He
physically
was
trying.
courting. He was courting her, but he was always like, "Oh, my darling, your eyes are like pools of." I mean, he was always like, and then
But he was,
it
but she
was
was
the
always
Latin lover take, though. It was totally
it,
the Latin lover take, Ricardo
right.
Montalban
I
and all
mean,
that kind of stuff.
that is why Pepe Le Pew was so popular and
It
so
was
and
hilarious.
because it was making fun of the fact that all these men and they had it as a French guy, but it could have been any European caricature, stereotype of just these horn dogs that won't take no for an answer, and that was American culture, right? I mean,
It was
I think
all culture, Jake.
well, it was
Dude.
it was
Once
an American
again,
cartoon,
huh?
but I said it was an American cartoon made for
Oh,
American
okay,
culture.
yeah.
But it was reflecting, kind of like an international, culture where it's like, yeah, you can, like, whatever you can get away with, right? And like sometimes he was grabbing her and she was literally like trying to I think most of the time she was literally trying to like wriggle away and escape, and he was physically restraining her, and so now when you look at it in the lens of nowadays, like politically correct Me Too things, like, oh God, we can't show this to children, but that
Yeah, but
is
that was the other thing. Those cartoons were never made for children initially. They were made as showrunners in movies. They were
yeah,
basically
of
the
course,
warm up.
but
They were the warm up act to burlesque, and they were made 100% for adults. It was then when people had airtime during the day that needed to get filled, people were licensing that material in order to bring. I mean, Warner Brothers and them, that would be an
yeah,
easy
this was Saturday
paycheck
morning.
to put them right over there. I
They took
bless
all,
every moment of watching all those cartoons through the 70s. I mean, it was just such a they were like electric bolts of creative stimulation, like especially watching 2D animation.
yeah,
Like,
Bugs
come
Bunny, Warner
on, the way the
Brothers, Daffy
fluency of
Duck,
that.
Elmer Fudd, all of it.
Ugh.
And these were cartoons that were created in the
Who
40s
was the
and
little
50s.
kid? Was it Waldo? Not what? There was a little kid that would fall asleep in class, and he would become like a knight and a space adventurer. And damn, what was the name of that kid's name? Come on, somebody in the chat's got to remember this.
Was this
Brett, you've got to remember this, huh?
a Warner Brothers cartoon?
Yes, it was a part of the Warner Brothers cartoon. And I think he had 2 episodes, but the one that was my favorite was the and the teacher. You never saw the teacher's head. It was always like her waist down. And Ralph, yes, oh yes, thank you. Once was cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was. Oh, dude, Jake, you can't play it on air because then I have to go back and blur it out like that Dragon Slayer video. But when you get a chance, look up Warner Brothers Ralph cartoon. I can literally pinpoint that cartoon as like a social encouragement to fuck off in class and daydream. It is Ralph, Brett. It just because it was the stuff I was made of,
Yeah,
right?
here's a still of it. Ralph Phillips, this kid.
Yes.
Oh wow, that looks like a character I once did.
Oh my god,
He
he's
had
so good. And
a
he would
very
be like a
oblong
space. He would be
head.
like a space commander, and oh, it's so awesome, dude.
Right. Okay.
Love it,
Gotcha.
love it.
Yeah. I mean, those Warner Brothers cartoons were incredible. It was a golden age. You know, the directors were like Friz Freeling, and what was the other guy? Chuck. I forget, but you also had Little Red
Chuck
Riding Hood,
Jones.
Chuck Jones, yeah, and then they also did the Grinch for Christmas time, and they were hysterical, and there's never been anything like it with Mel Blanc on the voices, and
Life of Walter Mitty, guys. Bring back Ralph.
that might have right, it might have been based on the life of Walter Mitty, right, which was
Yeah. Oh, it's just that's the other thing. I love the nuance in the when you watch something when you're a kid and it's at one level. Yeah, Mel Blanc was the voices, the actor that did all the voices for
and
everything.
another thing that they had in the 70s was, which they don't have anymore, was this time of year, the end of the summer going into the fall, there would be a big advertisement in the newspaper, like a double page spread, or maybe like TV Guide or whatever, and it would have all the new Saturday morning cartoons that were
Yes, I would put that on my wall or my
yeah.
door. I would tape it, scotch tape it to my
So
wall.
like yeah, like 74, 75,
Ugh.
76, it was a big deal. So because they would always have some like action adventure stuff,
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
like Lone Ranger and Power Hour, and then like the Impossibles, and there would be some superhero-y stuff, and Gigantor and
Space
Thongor,
Ghost.
Space Go, right, exactly, right. And then there would always be like Scooby Doo was always big, but they had so much programming, and you would see like ABC, CBS, and NBC would all have their competing platforms for Saturday morning cartoons, because it was big business. There was a very high tune in, and that would be when they
Toys.
would be hawking all their toy
Yeah.
advertisements, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it
So
always sucked. It always sucked because my birthday's the beginning of August. And Johnny Quest, yes. Dude, you want to talk about inappropriate cartoons? There's no way they could put Johnny Quest back up for
what
children.
what did Johnny Quest have?
Oh, the colonial racism and like
Oh yeah.
just the degrading of
Oh, the guy in
like
the turban,
every
yeah.
other culture other than you know what I mean?
Was he
Everybody's
calling
just a
him master?
mongrel and stuff. It's just terrible
The guy
under
in the turban was
scientific
calling the kid
context.
master or something,
But I would
right?
have to wait. I would have to literally wait till Christmas to get. And all my buddies would have like birthdays between September and Christmas, and I'd be going to these birthday parties, and and then you'd see those toys on television, and of course they'd get one, and then the next party you went to, they would get. I had to wait till damn Christmas, and then nobody wanted to play with that toy anymore because they already had played with that toy.
Yeah, and here's Kurt grappling with the materialist U.S. Indoctrination of kids, where the only value we have in our life is, can we get the latest toy,
Mm-hmm.
I just bring that to people's attention because in the comic world today, how many publishers are banking on that nostalgic feeling, that we have for those old toys, and seeing those old primary colors, and seeing those old cartoons, seeing those old comics. Like, they're all of those characters are all reimagined now in comics, like the Impossibles, and the He-Man, and all that. It's all just re-released for another audience, and some of us are bringing our kids, and some of us are going as adults by ourselves because we were just trying to recapture those feelings. But that's business. It's commercial art. You gotta love it. Bring back Saturday morning cartoons. That's why I dug Master of the Universe. I felt like watching a Saturday morning cartoon. Right. And the reality is that, men and women, they drink on Friday and Saturday night. But if you got a couple of kids, they're going to be jumping into your bed on Saturday morning, and they're going to be bothering the crap out of you while you're trying to sleep off, a couple of highballs that you had the previous. So Saturday morning cartoons were the perfect thing. They started at like 8 maybe or 7 even, and they just they take up the kids' attention until you can finally get your pajamas on and walk out and make some eggs or something. But yeah, that great American tradition, and I don't know. I think Saturday morning cartoons and are all like 3D now, and it's all like Disney on demand and Cartoon Network and all this other stuff. I mean, I was at my guitar player's house the other day, and he's got little kids, so they're watching. It just looks like shapes, They're watching these little characters that just look like, one is an oval and one is a square, and they're just like 3D animated, and they're like, what's the adventure? Oh, we got to drive down, this lane so we could go up on the coconut tree. And, the kids are just mesmerized and everything. But I'm looking at the screen, and all I'm seeing is these like 3D shapes, that are just like humanized, like, I don't know, it's like a talking pineapple or a coconut or something. And, you wonder, I mean, there's no artistry anymore. There's no craft to the character designs. It's all these just kind of like geometric shapes. It's really weird. And there's so many of these shows like on PBS Kids and Toon Network and, all these channels where you can just mass produce this crap now with computers. I don't know. I know I sound like get off my lawn, but
hey, get off my lawn! Damn
but when
dirty
I was
kids!
it was different when I was a kid.
When I was a kid, we had to wait till.
Yeah, well, you had rotoscoping, and Saturday morning was great, man. You had all these. I think they had. I mean, Spider-Man. I think that was the 1960s, right?
Wait.
Yeah, that was Ralph Bakshi.
All Brett keeps saying is you got to bring everything back. Batmerk is throwing up a question on whether we've seen the Golden Axe trailer. I'm just going to look for some Axe trailer. I'm not going to play anything.
Yeah,
shit, it's a cartoon. Holy shit.
You're not showing anything, so should I be showing?
No, I'm not, but it looks freaking awesome. It's like Dragon Slayer. Dragon's Lair. Sorry, Dragon's Lair from the old Don Bluth video game thing. But yeah, hotness. Thanks for the heads up. Irk.
All I'm saying is painted covers. Oh, here, this is what it looks like.
What? Don't show anything or don't play anything.
No, yeah, I can't show any motion, but
I think it might be based on. It's very Rick and Morty. Okay.
It doesn't look very. I mean, the continuity part doesn't look very like model.
We gotta check it out. I mean, it just you'll be able to see things in. What had a video game?
Is it a video game? Let's see.
Well, it had that console. Yeah.
It might. Yeah, it might have been based on this, the Golden Axe. Yeah. Yeah, but that's great. They can take those ideas. A lot of those old video games could be. I mean, look at how they're doing it with what is it? Assassin's Creed is one, and Mortal Kombat is another, and Street Fighter is another. Right. So they're all mega blockbuster movies now, high budget blockbuster movies now. I mean, I don't know if they're doing good, but they're high budget, production. And one of them even, I think, the latest Mortal Kombat is featuring the guy that was in The Boys as the main character now. But really good Hollywood CGI, action. I just hope there isn't too much standing around talking. So, next Sunday, Kurt, I have a hard out. I should be okay to go till 1, but I have a Sunday matinee gig at Otto Shrunken Head in New York City, and we're gonna have 3 cool bands. If anybody's in the New York City area, next Sunday, from 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. Going to be doing some day drinking and playing a show. Should be a really cool. The last band, the closer, is really cool. They're called the Psychedelic Cats, and they play all kinds of like 60s hits. I have the poster. Well, I guess I'll just show. Kurt, I'm hearing like a fluttering sound. Are you hearing that on your end?
Yeah, it's my pen.
Nope. It's like sounds like.
Yeah, it's my pen. My microphone's right above it. Like this?
No, it sounds like something else. Here's the.
Sounds like something else.
Yeah, it sounds like a little motor or a little maybe like a little interference or something like.
Oh, it's probably your audio. It's just your audio trying to catch up.
Maybe. All right, so here we go live. So I made this poster and I hung a couple up in the venue, and then I hung a couple up in the West Village, on the East Village, different places. But then, of course, it rains. August 30th, Sunday matinee, we got the Psychedelic Cats, we got the Von Ghouls, and then Nebulous is some other band. And it says 4 o'clock show, but the music doesn't start till 4:30. So just plugging that on the off chance anybody's going to be at Otto's on Sunday.
Gendry's, Pat Merck's also bringing up Gendry Tarkovsky's Conan, which is going to be the story Queen of the Black Coast. So I have actually done as little investigation towards this because I'm just too hardcore a fan that I don't want to work myself up into an imaginative state of what it's going to be. But on the other side of that coin, Gendry, in my eyes, cannot do wrong. He is not going to fail the Conan property. I believe when that shit gets released, anybody left in the world that doesn't know or understand what Conan is, or quote unquote a Conan is, they will after his cartoon. As a matter of fact, they've just changed leadership for Conan International Properties. Is this young guy now? If you're interested in Conan, if you want to get news, like really good, honest news about the property and everything, Conan the Barbarian on YouTube. That is the central PR megaphone for Conan International Properties. That's they tell it as best they can, I think, legally, without stepping on themselves. But after I see something there, I just leave it alone. Whatever it is, they've got to do it, like the movie or a video game or the cartoon or whatever. They just got to do it. The comic books, just do the damn thing so I can then get a hold of it. I don't spend any more time on it. But
what channel is coming out on a channel or something? It's going to be.
Oh gosh.
Is this for like Netflix or?
I can't remember. It's wherever he's. I think where's Adult Swim? Who owns Adult Swim and the Cartoon Network thing? Because I think he still comes through. No, I think it is HBO. Because wasn't uh, um, Primal? Wasn't that? What is Primal? I think it's. I don't know. I'm not trying to say I know, and I'm not worried about it. I will get a hold of episodes once it comes, because that was like with Primal.
Primal I haven't seen because it is behind some kind of paywall service, so it might
Prime. Yeah. Oh shit, that's right, Prime, and I have Prime, so
it's
right. That's what actually made it even more exciting. I'm like, I'm already on the pay. I'm already doing the payroll with my subscription, so.
Oh yeah.
Dude, it's a wicked perfect storm, which makes me even more nervous. But Gendry cannot do wrong. Between Samurai Jack, which I still can't believe was made. And then Primal. I literally believe Primal was his prime to get to the Conan property.
Yeah,
that has been. Yep, Primal is on HBO. Because I keep putting it off, but every August I usually get the subscription for HBO for a month. I treat myself and I go back and watch True Detective season 1. I want to get into House of Dragons, get caught up, even go back to a little of the first seasons of Game of Thrones. There's some good stuff. Also, I've been playing around with like an Android story. And so, of course, when you do research on like good old school Android materials to be like reading or watching, Westworld is always like another one. And I remember watching Westworld, but not having enough appreciation because I was probably being just soul sucked by Game of Thrones. So I just couldn't loosen myself to just really sit back. So I'd like to get back and enjoy, the techie, nuancy stuff of that. So Crenshaw, yeah. So yeah, and if anybody has a good little known Android, like I'm looking for do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep kind of context, like the way Philip K. Dick puts us through a story where the androids are just kind of like us, but I kind of lean into like a cosmic-y horror, others, and are they going to kill these types of things and stuff. Because I'm working on a story. I'm not going to give anything away. This is like a passion project of mine, where it's about the malfunctioning of androids, but that the way we kind of cause them to malfunction, I think and then whose fault is it, and it kind of is like us, right? But then like the emotional part, because they look and act so much like us, that when they fail, should we feel bad that they fail, or is it like you're just doing your job and you fucked up, so don't fuck up again? You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of playing around with that kind of like thing. So Westworld is going to be definitely thing. Dark Winds, my sister-in-law just wouldn't shut up about that, and my sister last night. I'm going to have to give that a shot. Dark Winds. Thank you, Bat Mark. But Jake, we got about 5 more minutes till we hit the 1 o'clock. I'm telling you, I think one of the major accomplishments that making Turbo Pit Fighter has done, we have arrived at a very passionate and active chat. And if we missed anybody on anything, please know that on my side, I'm moderating hosting the podcast. So I got little things and stuff, trying to do my best to ink, keep my end of the job. And of course, Jake is leading us in the charge on story and the context of characters in those stories and penciling pages for issue 2. So if we missed you, man, look, just know that you got to come back. And we one thing. Once was cool. This is the first time I'm seeing you. Welcome. Hope you can make it back. But Jake and I are every Sunday, as I say, at Jake's house. You guys are obviously, you have been invited and we're just hanging out and we're doing exactly what we did when we were in our, like, for me, between like 13 to 16, it was always like a bunch of guys getting comics and talking about TV and movies and going to the movies and all that. So
I used to,
Cool.
I used to go to PS84, and the kid that lived right across the street had a brownstone, is because his dad was like an architect, and his name was Alex Newman, and we used to get together at his house, me and Alex and Eric Tausch and some other kids, and we used to. It was right when Frank Miller was doing Daredevil and
Oh shit! Yep, exactly.
and we would get those comics and we would look at them, and I just couldn't believe the action sequences when Daredevil used to like flip. I remember there was one where he was there was a bad guy, the Beetle, I think it was called, and the Beetle had like these 3 suction cup hands. He would fly, but he had these 3, and then Daredevil was like fighting him, but he was like in the grasp of the Beetle, and then he flipped his legs back and he grabbed the Beetle's head and he flipped him over like a total like karate thing, and I couldn't believe the action sequence. So we all got out pencil and paper and we tried to draw, and we all did our own version of it.
I'm still looking for Dante Whitley. He was in my 6th grade when I had come back from Texas to Wilmington. He was really the only other kid my age that understood the sort of nerdom of comics. And he said, "Oh, he was just being friendly at lunch or something, just trying to like welcome me back to the North." And he's like, "Oh, I don't know if you like comics, but I bought another copy of this comic. You might like it." And it was the first start of Daredevil, Frank Miller's Daredevil. And I just never looked back. And him and I were like a house on fire, always getting split up in classes and stuff. But Dante Whitley, if you ever hear this, you are a great responsibility for me becoming totally impassionate about comics, because we would make our own comics. That was the other thing. Dante was also making his. I was like, wow, you could do that? It was just that's what I mean. Like, and that's what I hope Jake and I are really doing for all you guys, is just inspiring you to like, just do it. Jake and I are not doing this for any other reason than we want to, and to the point of have to now get together every Sunday for 3 hours and work on Turbo Pit Fighter, because we fucked up in 2000 and abandoned poor Turbo. So we're making up for it, but it's just a blessing. So I can't thank you guys enough. I'm always looking forward to Sundays, because there's always something that just goes off between Jake and I, and now a really great crew coming in. That I know, and I know all of you, some of you know, are making your own comics and everything. Brett, Batmerk, Charlie. I don't see Travis here today, but I know he'll get us on the replay and stuff. But as Jake says, don't be afraid to throw in links to anything that you want us to check out that you're working on, or just share, because it's really what it's all about. But Jake, I don't have anything more to give. Just let these people get back to making comics, reading comics, making them if they choose.
You've exhausted everything.
I am exhausted.
Finally, you can take a breath. You can take a breath now. You could. Yeah. So I agree. I had the same thing going on. I remember. I think specifically 7th grade, we started Do Magazine. Me and this guy named Mark, who was my best friend at the time. And it would be Jake versus Mark in the comic, and we both had like this little character design. Well, we and like what would happen is we used to steal some 11 by 8.5 by 14 paper and fold it in half. And we used to steal it from the copy machine, or the Rexo machine, they called it, Rexograph machine.
Yeah.
Then so that would be, and we would just write "Do Magazine #1," and it would be, featuring Jake versus Mark, and I would do like 2 or 3 pages, and I would set up a battle or set up a scene or something, and where I was like defeating him, and then I would smuggle it over to him, and then he would draw it. Like maybe the next period, he would draw it, and then he would hand it back to me, and it was my turn. So it was like this whole back and forth thing. And by the end of that school year, we had Do Magazine number 49, and each one might have been like 20 or 30 pages or something. And at the end of the year, we were like, what are we going to do with this? Are you going to take it? Am I going to take it? And we couldn't, neither one of us, so we ended up selling it all 49 issues to this kid named Franz Valcourt for $5. And if he's still got that stuff, oh my God. But I ended up doing something similar in college with this other guy. And it was a little bit different at that point, because I was a lot better, and I still have some of those comics. So it's like me doing a few pages, then him doing a few pages, and we would just trade. But we were in community college or 2-year associates college, and so we weren't about to like get in trouble or anything, but I do have those somewhere here, and so those would be funny to see, because it was kind of the same thing, just getting in and out of situations, and then you give it to the other guy, and then he does it. And then that was Randolph. That was a guy named Randolph, who was a pretty good artist, and I don't know what he's doing nowadays. So that was like late 80s. But yeah, and that's all I have to say. So thanks for everybody for appearing today. We have Batmerk, we got The King, we got Once Was Cool. It was Prime until the newest season. It was HBO Max. Once Was Cool. Feel free to plug your site so that everybody knows who you are, what you're making. We had Apex today. We had Bad Wormhole. That's Matt, I assume. And then we had Daryl, and then we also had Saboteur. Thanks everybody for thanks. It's really better when the comments come in, because you can settle a lot of arguments between me and Kurt, and you could also remind us. Kurt's like this, I'll say, "Oh God damn it, what was that?" I'm like that myself sometimes. But so yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'm probably gonna go solo later on Substack. So Do Mag's Substack. You can pop that into Google or whatever.
Link in the description.
It's a little more boring when it's just me talking and drawing. But I'd rather live stream it and just talk to nobody, because
Yourself.
yeah, because sometimes I watch those back, but it could be like years later, or a long time later, let's say, and there's value in it for me, if nobody else. And it's also just documenting the progress, because I do want to finish this turbo page so that I can start page 28 next Sunday. So yeah, if you've gotten this far, thanks for tuning in. Check us out next Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. And we're going to have a hard out at 1 o'clock, because I have to get down to the city. But go ahead and check out our YouTube channel. We have 2 other tabs. One is the Indie Creator Exchange, where we do tons of interviews and fun kind of hangouts with other creators besides us. And then we also have the Comics That Influence, which we totally neglected this week. But I'll just tease a couple of comics that I'm going to be showing next week when we get back to Comics That Influence. These are just like flip throughs and hauls, and I have all this cool stuff that I got in the dollar boxes. including this and this and this and many more. So, see you guys next Sunday, and thanks to Kurt. Thanks to all of you guys in the chat. See y'all next time.
All right, see you next Sunday, Jake, and I'm going to take us on the out on that. You can see Jake and I at SPX 12th and 13th. Jake is not 100% sure that he'll be there, but there's a good chance that he will be there. But Jake and I will be at IC3 September 26th. So if you're in the Providence, Rhode Island area, please stop by and not only say hi to Jake and I, but every other amazing creator that's going to be there. And if you want copies of either my cover or Jake's cover or both covers for the new Doom Mags, number one, it's over on kurtbrugel.com. You can also throw in, I've got few copies left. I think I have 7 copies left of my last run of the second Turbo teaser, which was from Mixum. And I'm now looking for somebody else to print my next, 50 copies. But other than that, see you next week, everyone.
Bye.